Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sakala.
Here.
Commissioner Crissati.
Here.
Commissioner Finger. Whoop, I've got an old sheet, sorry. Commissioner Russo.
Here.
Commissioner Hendrickson.
Here.
Commissioner Ludwig.
Here.
Commissioner Mangini.
Here.
Commissioner Nasuda.
Here.
Chair Nelson.
Here.
Vice Chair Pisner.
Here.
Commissioner Santinella. And Commissioner Ungary is absent. 10 members present, 1 is absent.
Thank you, Sheila. And new business is a resolution to reduce the sewer use fee for 53 Nealon's Road. Mike or Bob, you want to give an update on this?
Yeah, so this came, good evening, this came to, back in February to the General Governance Committee, and we went through, John and his staff did research, and basically, the individual was able to provide information where, again, they didn't know his deduct meter wasn't working, he got it fixed, so as a result, we were willing to reduce it, which is basically half, keep me honest, Gina and Bob, about half. So we make the recommendation to approve.
All right, I probably should have read the resolution
sorry about
first.
that.
No, I'm sorry. So, a resolution to reduce the sewer use fee for 53 Nealon's Road. Be it resolved that the Enfield Water Pollution Control Authority does hereby authorize the sewer fee for 53 Nealon's Road to be reduced by $773.63. Date prepared 4/4/25, prepared by John A. Wilcox, Director of Finance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Okay, now, thank you, Mike, for the clarification. Are there any questions on this? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sakala.
4.
Commissioner Crissati.
4.
Commissioner Russo.
4.
Commissioner Hendrickson.
4.
Commissioner Ludwig.
4.
Commissioner Mangini.
4.
Commissioner Nasuda.
4.
Chair Nelson.
4.
Vice Chair Pisner. 4. Commissioner Santinella. 4. And Commissioner, and that's it. 10 in favor, none against.
Okay, and next is an update on collections. I asked that John Wilcox comes, and, we made a change last year with the sewer use fee by eliminating the flat fee and going 100% solely to a usage fee. So John is just going to give us an update of where we are.
John's going to give a quick update, and as you recall, we'll do our budget, and then, of course, we have time. We set the sewer use fee after that, but this was just a preview because we did change the methodology last year, and council has asked for an update. Also in governance, Mike and his group had asked, and we'll do this again later. John has prepared a presentation to advise folks on deduct meters to assist them. He's sending that to me, and I will disseminate it to all of you, and we'll also put it up on our site, and I thank John for that. And with that, I give you John.
Just one question on the deduct meters, Chris.
Yeah.
I believe Bob or Mike had asked, is there a way to stamp the sewer bills with just springs here? If you have a sprinkler
remind
system,
them?
consider a deduct meter. That way, every single person is getting one before they end up with a $600 to $800 water bill.
We have right now like a predetermined bill, but I will look into seeing what we can add as far as miscellaneous notes and things like that.
Okay.
There's plenty of room.
Yep.
We mail a large number of bills. There's at least 15,000 residents, so each one gets about a third of that number, about 5,000 a month, go out. So everybody gets billed 3-4 times a year. So I don't know the logistics of actually stamping one, but I think it would be better to be printed on it. But I don't know how easy that is to do or not.
Okay.
So the billings through March have been right about the same for both years. Now, as you know, the billings, we had some calls early in the year. The bills were really, really low. And that was because the July bill went out and we were doing water usage for April, May, and June, which was obviously last year, and were billed under the expiring sewer rates, okay? So then when we billed August, it's May, June, and July usage, and those numbers were billed as we don't get individual numbers by month, so we allocate. So we had 2/3 that were billed at the lower rate and 1/3 that was billed at the higher rate. Then September, so the first quarter, we had those three bills were billed at least a portion of them were billed at lower rates. Both years, we are like $5,000 difference, about $5.3 million for both last year and this year. Collections, however, have increased by about $250,000, a little bit more than that, for this year over last year. So our collections on that have been almost $5.2 million. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be.
Questions? John?
Just one. Thank you, John. So collections are up. Is that dollars are up? Or percentage? Do you know what the percentage of the collections is?
I have to go through, it's a little bit differently than the collection percentage on taxes. So I have to go through and look at that and develop a little bit better process for actually what percentage of the current year, because some of that $5.2 million may be collections of older stuff as well. So I have to kind of try and pull that number out, and I haven't had as much time to look into that part of it yet.
Mike?
Again, John, thank you. And again, on behalf of the General Governance Committee, which you come all the time, and we've been asking for really, you've been going through this in a year, and not just this, but all of our, our funds that you manage. So I appreciate this, and again, I think this is important for people to understand where we sit as we go into budget. Just so you know, we're not just waiting till the spring to do a budget. We're actually talking about it all year long. And again, I think this is very interesting, and I want to make sure I use words correctly. When you mean collections, you mean tax sewer payments. You're not talking about outstanding sewer, collections, meaning we're sending some to collections. Just want to make sure I'm clear.
I mean, the payments, the cash we have, or payments that we have received into our cash account.
Got it, perfect. So we're just, based on your math, about 250 ahead of where we were the prior year.
Yes.
Rough estimate of fund balance on a?
I'm not ready to give
I
that
know, all
yet
right.
for that
I'm
one.
sorry. And then last thing, speaking of collections, are we still doing that program that we started 5-6 years ago, where all the outstanding fees of over years? And I know at one point we collected over $1 million. Is that still ongoing?
Yes, it is.
Right.
We are still referring, what he's talking about is, we usually give a grace period of several months, and then we'll place a lien on the payment. Placing the lien actually preserves our rights and collections on it. And then after if it still has not been, we will refer those to basically not every account, but we will refer the larger ones to a state marshal for collections.
I appreciate the mayor putting this on the agenda, and Councilor Sakala and Councilor Hendrickson, we've been meeting with you. Again, I know you've been doing this so this is very helpful. Again, important that we just remind folks that we are looking at the budget all the time and where we sit financially as we, even especially go into budget season. So thank you. I appreciate all your work on this.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I just want to thank you, John. I think you did an incredible job. Last year, we put you under the gun to come up with a number to get rid of the flat fee. And I think you came in spot on a $5.5 million budget. To come in within $200,000 is phenomenal. So, now we know what we're looking at this year. For sure, not an increase as long as things keep going the way they're going, and maybe we can adjust it down a little bit. We've taken care of some serious WPC projects this year. But that is to you and your department, John. Phenomenal job. I think you hit it spot on. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, John.
And then just real quick, there was a question about another gentleman who General Governance was discussing and why it was not brought to the agenda.
That's correct. My understanding is that that gentleman talked to Mr. Wilcox, and he was kind of dismissive of whatever savings we could have provided him, so he told us to disregard pursuing it.
Okay. So I know you would ask, did you already?
No.
Okay. Oh, all right. Okay, so after that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor? We are adjourned. welcome everybody to the Town Council regular meeting of April 7th. And can we all rise for a prayer or moment of silence by Councilman Nasuda?
All right, a moment of silence, please, first. Dear God, grant us serenity in our decisions. Help us approach each choice with a peaceful heart and a clear mind, trusting in your guidance. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilman Nasuda. And can we have roll call, please?
Counselor Nasuda.
Here.
Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
Here.
Counselor Russo.
Here.
Counselor Santinella. Counselor Ungary is absent. Counselor Sakala.
Here.
Counselor Crisati.
Here.
Counselor Hendrickson.
Here.
Counselor Ludwig.
Here.
And Counselor Mangini.
Here.
10 members are present, 1 is absent.
Thank you, Sheila. And in the event of a fire and emergency, please exit the rear of the council chambers a safe distance away from the building, or you can go out the side doors, down one flight of stairs, and out the rear doors, also a safe distance away from the building. Next, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of March 17th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any comments, corrections, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. And the regular meeting of March 17th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Any comments, corrections, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Tonight, we have no special guests, so we'll move right into public communications and petitions. Any person who wishes to address the council shall first be recognized by the chair and shall state their name and address for the record. They shall limit their remarks to 5 minutes. After each person who desires has had a chance to speak, those desiring to speak a second time will be permitted to do so and shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. During public communications item 7 on the agenda, public members shall limit their remarks to 2 rounds, 8 minutes. During public communication item 16 on the agenda, if prior to 11 p.m., each person shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Public communication shall be limited to 1 hour unless extended by a majority vote of the council. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not any individual member. All remarks addressed to the administration of the town shall be addressed to the town manager and not an individual employee. Public members shall observe proper decorum and good conduct and shall refrain from personalities and improper language. Who would like to come up and speak? Ma'am.
Diane Stelmat, 18 Clear Street, Enfield. I came to talk about one thing, but John was up and he reminded me about you reminded me about the deduct meter, and I got mine last week. Put the fertilizer down, so I'm good now. I'm here for the volunteer tax program. It still has not hit the agenda. The recommendations have been submitted for changes, and we would like to get it. And I've been picked as the mouth with all the old volunteers to see what's going on and why we can't get it settled yet. So that's it for me. I'm going to run home and watch The Answer on TV because it's bedtime for me.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thank you very much, Diane. Next, ma'am.
Maureen Griffin, 98 Abbey Road. I sincerely hope that the council has decided to stop fighting the court ruling regarding the Board of Ed member with autism that was denied simple accommodations. That whole situation could have been avoided with basic human decency. We all have strengths and challenges. Mitigating the impact of one's challenges allows the benefit of the strengths to come to the fore. As many of the kids in town are on the spectrum, the unique input of that board member could have been invaluable. Instead, the town, also known as taxpayers, will pay for the arrogance of those that refuse to accommodate her. I also encourage you to pass the Board of Ed budget as presented. You have heard from many about the impact of staffing cuts. One of the many most concerning issues is not being able to provide all the services indicated in a student's IEP or 504. These are not suggestions. They are requirements in a legal document. Let's not invite legal action by knowingly continuing the shortages that result in regular violations of IEPs. On another front, I was astonished to hear the attack from the dais on an audience member by counselors a couple meetings ago. Not only does it violate the stated expectation of audience members that should also apply to everyone up there to avoid personalities and job performance issues, I fear it could be yet another legal exposure for the town. One could easily interpret what happened as an attempt to use the position of counselor to imitate and intimidate a Board of Ed employee. That's not okay. If a parent has an issue, there are avenues to address them within the school system. That is not to say that a citizen does not have the right to speak of difficulties they are having with the schools. They have every right to, so long as they are avoiding personnel complaints in public comments, expectation that was just said. Further, if a counselor would like to comment on such an issue, they should sit down where I am, not up where you are when they're commenting. So it's very clear that they're speaking as a person, as a citizen, and not an elected member of the town. On another front, I am glad that I believe that the charter that's coming forth as presented does not have the flag issue in it. I don't think it belongs there. I don't think the town needs to do anything more than what has already been done. You passed, whatever you guys call it, to limit expression that way. That's a culture issue, culture war, everybody wants it to be. It's not a structure of the town, and that's what the charter is supposed to be about, the structure of the town and how it is run. Let's keep things where they belong.
Thank you, Maureen. Next. Lucian.
Lucian Lefebvre, 54 Kimberly Drive. Here tonight as a citizen of Enfield. I wasn't able to attend the public hearing on the charter revision. I'm here to say that the flag policy should be in the town charter. The reason for that is to eliminate the possibility of any lawsuits against the town of Enfield. The city of Boston lost at the Supreme Court for a lawsuit for $2 million because it didn't have a flag policy. The court recommended 3 choices to Boston. Fly every flag, no matter how offensive, which invites chaos. Exercise more selectivity over applications, which is counterintuitive and could violate the free speech clause. Or eliminate the forum altogether. This would eliminate the possibility of a lawsuit, no matter how frivolous. The flag policy in place right now states that it's the U.S. flag, state flag, POW, MIA flag, and the service flags, military service flags. The first represents every citizen of the United States. The second represents every citizen of the state of Connecticut. The POW MIA, which honors all still missing or unaccounted for, goes directly below the U.S. flag on the same flagpole or a flagpole to its right at a lower level. The service flags, which are in the area of the town green referred to as Memorial Park, with 4 monuments to our armed forces. The right to fly these flags was paid for with the blood of American veterans since before there was a United States of America. Remember, when a citizen raises his or her right hand to join the military, they swear to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. They also write a blank check payable to the people of the United States, up to and including their lives. The flags of groups or organizations don't belong on government buildings or flagpoles. This includes veterans organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, political groups, churches, or any organization or group. I strongly support the policy be put into the town charter to eliminate constant change and keep the town of Enfield from facing any lawsuits in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucian. Sir?
Good evening. Robert McDonald. I live at 56 Lake Drive. I'm here to bring up a dangerous situation in my neighborhood, especially around Oak Road and Lake Drive, which are not throughways, they're dead-end streets. The speed limit on Oak Road, which connects to Lake Drive, was 20 miles an hour. But Sergeant Meyer, who is traffic supervisor in the town, deemed that the road was dangerous, it was narrow, and a one-car bridge, so they changed it to 15 miles an hour, which is good on paper, but it's still, people are speeding through the neighborhood. My house is right on the corner of Oak Road and Lake Drive, so I can see the stop sign at the hairpin corner. People blow through the stop sign at 15, 20 miles an hour, and by the time they hit the bridge, they're doing 25, 30 easily, heading towards Taylor Road. About 8 months ago, we had a major crash, high-speed crash on the bridge. Somebody from our neighborhood was driving. There was a young girl on the bridge that almost got hit. In fact, the crash was so bad, the car was sideways, shut down the road for well over 2 hours. 8 months later, another high-speed crash at the bridge, shut down the bridge for hours. So the speed is just out of control, and it's not just the FedEx drivers, UPS, it's the neighbors. It's total disregard for the danger of the road. So Sergeant Myers, I've talked to him on many occasions, and he's put up a digital speed display to show people how fast they're going. And it's good for a month, you know, and people still go fast, but they see how fast they're going and they don't care. And then he's actually had officers monitor the traffic, and they can't be there all the time, you know? So it's just out of control. And so what we're hoping for is to get something to slow the traffic down, maybe speed humps. So in the past, I've heard, well, speed humps, town vehicles are going to skid off the road and damage the truck. So I personally went to Longmeadow and Chicopee that have speed humps, okay? They have no issues with cars, you know, going off the road, damaging the plows or anything. But it does slow down the traffic. People have to slow down to 20 miles an hour. So, and it's so bad that other towns in Connecticut are doing the same thing. In fact, it's so bad that they're doing red light cameras. So it keeps going up a notch. So what we're looking for is something to slow the traffic down. And we feel as neighbors that speed humps would do the job without damaging, plows and stuff. And you might say, well, what about emergency vehicles? My house is 30 feet from the road, okay? It's a winterized cottage. I see the emergency vehicles go by my house all the time. They go slow because there's a one-car bridge and a hairpin turn. So they're not going to fly down Oak Road because it's dangerous. But the people that live in the neighborhood and the UPS drivers, they don't care. So it's a regular thing where they just disregard. And people have told me stories where they're walking their dogs or the kids, and they're intimidated by cars blowing by because the people are speeding.
2 of my dogs got hit.
And so it's just, we feel that it wouldn't be a major project for speed humps to slow the traffic down because they're not doing it on their own. And when they lowered the speed limit on Oak Road to 15 miles an hour, I said, well, this looks good on paper, but nobody cares. So they blow through the stop sign at the corner of Oak and Lake Drive, and then they pick up speed. By the time they're at the bridge, they're flying. And so we're hoping to get some kind of, help from the town to put up some kind of manual device, because the 15 mile an hour, and even Lake Drive is 20.
Sir, your 5 minutes is up.
Is
but
it?
You're welcome to come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got my point across, I hope.
She
Sir,
did.
yes, you did.
We'll address it under Councilman Communications.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ma'am?
Hi.
Hi.
Linnell Valou, 11 Marble Road. Okay, so good evening, members of the Enfield Town Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to urge you on behalf of the countless parents, teachers, and concerned community members to pass the current school budget. Because what we are discussing is more than just numbers on a page. It's about safety, support, and success of our children. Let's start with the truth. Our teachers do not feel safe in their own schools. They've told us they are overworked, undersupported, and stretched to the brink. Many are leaving mid-year, not because they don't love teaching, but because the environment has become too much to bear. And when a teacher leaves, our kids are stuck with a rotation of substitutes, sometimes 3, 4, or even more in a school year, until a permanent replacement can be found. And that instability isn't just inconvenient, it's destructive. Our children are not learning the basics. They are falling behind in reading, math, writing, and the fundamental skills they need for life. And when kids don't learn, they get frustrated. That frustration shows up in their behavior, in their mental health, and in the classroom environment as a whole. Let me ask you, have you ever received a Secure the School alert? That heart-dropping, gut-wrenching message that something might be seriously wrong. Many of us here have, and not once or twice, but many times throughout the year. The fear has become a regular part of our kids' and teachers' lives. The world is changing, it's more unpredictable, and it's only going to get worse if we don't properly fund the resources and support systems that our schools need to feel safe, stable, and strong. Let me paint you a picture. Our teachers are standing in front of a classroom with 30 students. 30. That's 3 times the number of people I'm speaking to in this room tonight. Imagine trying to give each one the time, attention, and care they deserve, also while managing behavior, keeping everyone safe, and trying to teach core subjects. It's not just hard, it's impossible. Our teachers deserve better, and most importantly, our students deserve better. We do not want Enfield to become like a city where crime rises, where schools are overcrowded and under-resourced, and where families flee because they've lost faith in the system. Or do we want Enfield to be the kind of town where families choose because of its strong schools, dedicated teachers, and a community that invests in their youth? Let's be clear, our kids' education is far more important than paving another sidewalk project, more important than approving large raises for town officials. What message are we sending when we do these things while our kids are struggling? I also want to ask directly, has the budget been scrubbed for inconsistencies? Have we looked closely at every line item to ensure the cuts are fair, reasonable, and not doing more harm than good? Because laying off over 100 support staff seems excessive. These are people who help our community run smoothly. Classroom aides, special education assistants, paraprofessionals, cafeteria workers, bus monitors. These people are the glue that keep everything together. And when they're gone, it shows. And are we exploring state and federal grants like other towns do? We are not a small, quiet village. We have lots of children in Enfield. Shouldn't that qualify us for additional support? Can we advocate harder for that help instead of cutting where it hurts the most? We say children are the future, but they're also the present, and right now they need us. They need counselors, they need smaller classroom sizes, they need consistent teachers, they need safe, well-resourced schools. Let's give them the kind of education most of you were fortunate enough to have growing up, and where you felt safe, supported, and set up for success. They deserve education that prepares them for life, not just the next test. Please consider and pass this budget. Take a hard look at where cuts are happening and ask yourself, are we trimming the fat or are we cutting the bone? Support our educators, protect our children, invest in our future of this town before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Linnell.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Pam? Do you want to speak? You want to speak?
Hi, Pam Townsend, 54 Kimberly Drive. During the charter review public hearing, I spoke in support of adopting a flag policy into the town charter. First, I want to thank all of the commissioners for their dedication. Second, one of the commissioners stated that he thought I was talking directly to him. I was not. I was talking to the entire commission. Third, anyone that knows me knows that I don't publicly speak on issues unless it involves our veterans. However, I feel strongly about a flag policy being adopted into the charter. I honestly do not understand why the commission could not come to a consensus, a policy that simply states only the American flag, the flag that represents everyone, the POW, MIA flag, the military service flags, the state flag will be flown on flagpoles and outside of government buildings. I know the town does not have an official flag, but if there is one adopted, then that flag should be flown as well. If you believe that this is a good policy, then why not put it into the charter? We should be proud to have a policy. There are Connecticut towns that have a flag policy in their charter, so it's not unique. Some communities expand the policy to additional flags, such as the police and fire type flags for special occasions. This is not about veterans. This is not a political issue. And this is not about a particular flag. Matter of fact, rumor has it that at one time the Boy Scouts of America had requested their flag be flown, and they were denied. So it has never been an issue until one group decided to make it an issue. But what it is about is avoiding any issues in the future, called lawsuits. I do have one question that I hope can be answered. I know our awesome DPW takes care of the current flags, but if there is a policy change, who will pay for the additional flags to be put up and taken down? I'm assuming, and I don't like to assume, the organization pays for the flag, but there still is a cost for labor. Is it the taxpayer that incurs that labor cost? People complain about our taxes. Why take on an unnecessary expense? For those that call people that support the current flagpole policy names like a bigot, a racist, or xenophobic, you should look up the definitions. Then ask yourself, do any of these definitions apply to me? And finally, if you feel the need to support an organization, a cause, or person, you can do just as I do and display your support on your private property. Remember, our military and veterans gave you that right. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Danielle?
Danielle Gerard, Edgewood Drive. It's been a while since I've had the chance to speak here, but I'm grateful to be here now. There are a few important matters I'd like to address tonight. First, I want to talk about the budget request from the Board of Education. I'm not going to sit here and say that you aren't fully funding our schools. What I will ask is that you approve the proposed 5.7% increase. Our kids are struggling, and they are our future. You asked the previous superintendent for a clear breakdown for line items and a plan to understand where the money is going. Well, our current superintendent delivered just that. He provided a detailed, easy to understand budget with a comprehensive booklet. I've heard you say that you don't want to raise taxes. I understand that concern. We personally chose to raise our children here because we believe in the opportunities this town provides even before they were old enough for school. Every parent here can relate to the desire to do whatever it takes to support their children and their education. We also recognize there will be a budget shortfall of $2 million or more this year based on the tax presentation from previous meetings. We know your job is not easy, and that if our taxes go up, yours will too. I'm asking you to really consider the impact and approve the full budget. No more excuses. You asked for the information and you received it. What more do you need? Second, I'd like to address the flag policy that was being considered for inclusion in our charter revision. I understand that Enfield cannot afford another lawsuit, but what is being ignored, especially after the Boston incident, is that the issue there wasn't the policy, it was about how it was governed. Here in Enfield, we made a flag resolution for one group, and if other groups come forward with similar requests, it's up to you 11, the 11 of you, to decide whether to allow their flags or not. It's important to note that the flag resolution was never intended to put flags in schools. It was designed for a flag to be displayed on Town Hall at the request of residents and not one council member's agenda. On the day the flag resolution was up for vote, hundreds gathered to show their support, with many speaking in favor of keeping it. Just a few weeks ago, during the charter hearing, a small group opposed it, arguing it shouldn't be up to the town council to decide. We keep hearing that the people are against it, that the people have spoken. What's being overlooked is that more people have spoken to support it. Are our voices less valid, or is it just because they don't align with what certain members of this council want to hear? I know many people say the American flag represents everyone, and while that may be true for some, it's not the reality for others. Right now, there are many who don't feel safe under the flag. Women, LGBTQ+ individuals, Black and brown people, and many others. Our rights are slowly being chipped away, and we don't feel protected or comforted by the American flag. In fact, there are currently over 500 bills being put forth against marginalized communities. Some of the comments made, if you don't like it, you can leave, are concerning. Have you been paying attention to how countries view Americans right now? Are we supposed to leave every time we have a difference of opinion about what being an American truly means? No one is asking for the American flag to be taken down. I have yet to hear anyone state that they are offended by it. As our society evolves, it's important to recognize and embrace the diversity that makes our town special. Inclusion isn't about tolerance. It's about celebrating the wide range of experiences, backgrounds, and identities that strengthen our community. We need to wake up and acknowledge that the divide in this town, one that we've all contributed to, is damaging and hurtful. We have to recognize that many voices are not being heard simply because we don't agree with what others say or the ideas they bring to the table. This divide is making things worse, and if you don't see it, I'm afraid you are part of that problem. I've had some great conversations with many of you on the town council and even on the Board of Ed. I've always approached these conversations with an open mind and have been honest in speaking my truth. I believe I've remained true to myself and have made my nonpartisan stance very clear. But I want to remind all of you that you are up here to represent all of Enfield, not just your side. Finally, I want to speak directly to everyone watching and those in the audience. November is our local election. Take the time to learn about the candidates and make sure you come out to vote. We need a change. I'm talking about the divide. It's disheartening that about 30% of registered voters turned out to vote last time. So I ask you, why didn't you vote? What kept you from going to the polls 2 years ago? Please email me. I genuinely want to hear from our residents. advocacy@EnfieldCommunityAdvocates.com. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
Hello, my name is Shannon Ventura and I live at 2336 Bigelow Commons. I have been a resident of Enfield since 2007. I'm a veteran of the United States Army, and at the time that I raised my children here younger, I was a military wife. So I had the great experience with my daughter starting kindergarten before the school district separated. We got to be established as a foundational base for her, and at that time they had so much parent involvement, I had to beg to volunteer to be in the classroom. Fast forward 5 years later, my son came into the world and the town started to shift. The town, we went and separated the schools, K through 2, 3 through 5, and so on. Fortunately, my daughter didn't have to move schools that year, but everybody she knew did. So she was impacted in ways that I don't think a lot of people considered in the long term for those that got left behind. And then my son didn't know anything different from his experience. But the thing that I noticed different was by the time we went to Hazardville for my son to start kindergarten, there were less parents able to contribute to the school. I was able to volunteer and needed to volunteer. The support system was very appreciated, and the camaraderie and community that I was able to build with partnering with the staff was amazing for my son's development and just his peer group. I worked for the ERFC before and after school program for 3 years while my son was in kindergarten to 3rd grade. I volunteered at many different events for the school. I came to the classrooms, and I've been in many of the elementary schools across town, not just Eli Whitney or Hazardville. I was also at Enfield Street School. I'm asking you to please consider approving the full budget that's being requested, and if you can find extra money in there, throw it that way too. That's not a joke, I'm serious. To hear our teachers stand, and I'm super excited, I'll be the cheerleader for anything. They're worn, they're tired, they're heartbroken. And the fact that they get up and go to work every day still is amazing to me because they need help. And they don't have a voice to ask for it, or they don't feel like they're heard to raise a voice just for asking for help. And I'd like to think with everything that we've experienced as a town just in the short 12 years of all these changes in our school system from Sandy Hook and all of the divides outside of the political nature, but us as a community had the separation, the isolation, and COVID. This is a great opportunity to not have shame come from asking for help. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you for listening, and please vote for the budget.
Thank you, Shannon. Anyone else? Ma'am?
Hello. Rebecca Green, 152 Sheridan Road. I have come back tonight because I want to make sure our children and their education is a priority for this council. Budget time is here, and we need you to pass the proposed budget from the Board of Education as is with the 5.7% increase. We cannot afford concessions or cuts. I would ask you, if you don't want to pass it as is, why is that? What is more important than the education of our children? These are our future nurses, doctors, lawyers, leaders. They deserve high-quality education without cutting corners. People don't seek out towns like this that have poor education standards. My daughter is watching again tonight. She was sad I didn't say hi back to her last time I was in this chair. Hi, Amina. Be good for Daddy. Mommy's here for you and all your friends. You deserve the same opportunities that I had growing up. This is why I am back, to make sure that the voices of the parents in this town are heard, to make sure our students are heard, to make sure our teachers are heard. The integrated pre-K class that helped my daughter exponentially over the last 2.5 years will have to accommodate 7 to 8 additional special education children next year, with no additional teachers. Mrs. Curley is amazing, but she isn't a magician. Make this make sense. Stop asking our teachers to do more with less. Our kids matter, our parents matter, and our teachers matter. So I ask again, put aside partisanship and politics, put our children first, approve the budget that is presented to you in full, make it work, do what is necessary to make it pass, do the right thing for our kids. If the reason you don't approve of the proposed budget is that you fear you might lose your seat on this council, then you don't deserve your seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. George? No? Anyone else? Sir?
Joseph J. Annis Jr., 22 Hamilton Court, Hazardville. Thank you for the privilege to speak here tonight. First, I would like to comment on the flag poem read by my friend and fellow veteran Pam Townsend. Watching the video, I thought the poem would be short, but as the words were read, my interest grew and I became humbled. It is a representation of our country, our people, and our devotion to our nation. Displaying the flag is a way of promoting equality and showing respect for diversity. Pam's reading was thought-provoking, inviting Americanism and patriotism. The only thing missing during the video, because I watched it at home, was the reaction on the faces of those listening. Did it bring tears to anybody's eyes? Second, the final meeting of the Charter Revision Committee on March 27th was disappointing. I felt that some members were not prepared. They failed to research the task at hand and seemed oblivious to the facts and the mechanics needed to come to an informed decision concerning the flag ordinance. It appeared the entire committee expressed their belief in patriotism by supporting the flying of only the U.S. State of Connecticut POW/MIA and all the military flags on town flagpoles. Misdirection and misinformation, coupled with the charade to energize by hysteria using this example. If an Enfield first responder died, they wouldn't be honored or recognized because their organization isn't allowed to hang their flag on the town hall or town property. The town of Enfield, and this is what I think, the town of Enfield will never turn its back on someone who gave the ultimate sacrifice. I'm sure the town would back those people up. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Some members claim they put their faith in future councils. Wish in one hand and poop in the other, and see which one fills up first. One member said he would consider the hanging of another flag on the town hall. Another stated he would if elected to the council. The lips of fools bring them strife, and their mouths invite a beating. This is what pisses me off. If they actually supported flying the American flag, they would stand by it 100%, preserving it in the charter. It is a trap to dedicate something rashly and only later to consider one's motive or vows. In 2024, Acting Town Attorney Tom Tyler created a well-crafted resolution concerning the display of flags on town property and his full explanation and sound legal reasoning, advising for a flag policy. This is not discussed in depth at the charter meeting, just mentioned as a footnote. Where there is strife, there is pride, but wisdom is found in those who take good advice. The monetary cost of running the town is a contentious issue. We all feel the rising cost of home, car, business, and health insurance on top of everything else. Legal costs are growing. Court settlements in the millions of dollars because some dope didn't realize a cup of hot coffee is hot, thrusting many lawyers and judges into the entertainment division of the judicial system. A mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it is not open. Does the Enfield Town Council wish to leave the town open to lawsuits? Putting this ordinance into the charter is a free insurance policy, preventing liability on the town for the next 10 years. Common sense must be exercised. This must happen. The United States is a nation of rules and laws, poorly written, rarely understood, and randomly enforced. We can do better. We must do better. We will do better. The circus needs to end. In closing, I support and encourage the council to add the well-advised, well-crafted flag ordinance prepared by Acting Town Attorney Tom Tyler to the town charter. This needs to happen. While the show must go on, the circus needs to be removed. Remember, without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Anyone else? Sir.
Christian Navarro, 45 Lake Drive. So I moved to Enfield a few years back, and I'm here in support of some type of mechanical mechanism or speed bump on 45 Lake Drive and Oak Road. We have 2 dogs. We moved to that area because it seems like a very quiet, calm neighborhood. However, as my former resident or neighbor just spoke, that bridge there, it's a 1-lane bridge. So cars tend to go very slow through that area because there's only 1 car at a time that can fit. However, as soon as you turn the road and go onto Lake Drive, cars really tend to speed by. And again, we moved to this area because it's supposed to be a very slow moving area, but the cars really do fly by. There's been a couple of instances, we leash our dogs, but something will potentially happen, and there have been some other neighbors that have had their dogs hit. Now, there's children on that road, and there's children that play in the street as well. So, unfortunately, as everybody has been speaking on many various topics tonight, lawsuits are always a potential and a high risk. So, putting something down on the road, I think, avoids a lot of these lawsuits that could potentially happen, or even somebody getting killed. So please take that into consideration. It's a really big thing that's going on that road, and it is supposed to be a 15 to 20 mile area. So it's not being respected. Please do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will move on to Councilman Communications.
Second.
Oh, come on up.
Maureen Griffin, 98 Abbey again. Listening to everyone, a couple things came to mind. The way the flag policy is presented is very exclusionary and fearful, I think. If you want to say the American flag will always be flown, fine. And as how they did the previous thing to when, like Danielle was saying, a group brings forward a request. That seems like the most reasonable way to do it, because you guys are voted on to be up there, so you're representing the current views of people, or you should be. So I don't see a need to be exclusionary, and the way it's being presented, I feel, is exclusionary. The fact that the DEI committee was 86th just gives more credence to that in the viewpoint of a lot of people. What is the fear of people different? What is the fear of other ways of doing things, of living, when it does not impede your living? Diversity in biology is how things grow, how evolution, how our, just in biology in general, is a strength. Society is a microcosm. Our town is. Diversity is a strength. It should be encouraged, it should be celebrated, not repressed.
Thank you. Anyone else for the second time? Seeing none? Did you have your hand up, Lucian? Oh, okay. I was...
Lucian LaFave, 54 Kimberly Drive. I agree with other statements in here. Diversity is the strength of this country. Unfortunately, we live in a country where frivolous lawsuits happen all the time. I do have great pride in everybody up here to represent the town. To place it on your shoulders to make a decision to pick and choose what different organizations could display things in the town puts you guys on the spot. And the First Amendment is pretty broad, and the lawsuits that could come if you slip up the slightest amount could be devastating to the town. And again, I agree. The diversity is the strength of this country. Serving in the military for 37 years, I didn't care what religion, what color, what ethnicity anybody was, as long as on my right or on my left, they were there to have my side. We all bleed red, and it didn't matter where they came from, what their upbringing was, what their religious belief was. We all were together in it. But unfortunately, I just don't want to see the town be involved in lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucian. Anyone else for the second time? Seeing none. Councilman Communications. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. I want to thank all of the public that has come forward to speak. It's very important that we hear everyone's thoughts and opinions. It's extremely important. I will be reading an email from a resident who is ill and couldn't make it tonight. My name is Jennifer Bukowski. I've been an Enfield resident for the last 13 years, and her address, for the record, is 2 Jefferson Street, Enfield, Connecticut. A flag banning policy has no place in Enfield's town charter. Full stop. As our town grows and changes, it's crucial that we uplift the diversity that makes Enfield stronger, not suppress it. Let's be clear, this proposal is not about neutrality, as some may have you believe. It's a targeted attack on marginalized communities, especially LGBTQ+ individuals and people of color, whose rights, identities, and existence are already under siege. Inclusion is not just about tolerance. It's about visibility, dignity, and respect. Silencing these groups undermines the very principles of equality and justice this town claims to stand for. Unfortunately, this committee has a track record of dismissing, excluding, and demeaning those they view as less than or problematic. That's not speculation. It's documented in words and actions that have repeatedly made headlines and brought shame to this town. This policy is just the latest attempt to marginalize, and we see it for exactly what it is. Shame on you. And again, I'd be happy to send this over to Sheila for recording. Thank you. And then again, the other comment I want to make, we have our Mount Carmel Spring Fling this Saturday from noon till 4. We're having a luncheon, baskets, raffles, and I know some council members have attended. Marie, I know you were there last year. It's a great event, and it's a lot of fun, and there's tremendous prizes too. So I'd welcome everyone to attend our Spring Fling. Thank you.
Bob, anything?
Yeah, I do have a couple things. First of all, I know Mr. McDonald and his crew, they left. I know we have a public safety meeting coming up this week, and I think this is something that we've been talking about as a group in regard to, some of these complaints that we've been receiving in regard to these narrow roads that people live on and how fast people go, whether the speed limit was 20 and now it's lowered to 15 and people still are not abiding by that. So we have been talking about instituting pilot programs for speed bumps. So I think we can talk about this, if we may possibly could add this to the agenda this week. I don't know if it's
Public safety.
Public safety.
Yeah.
If we can add that this week, that would probably be
Consensus to add it?
Yes.
no issue with that.
Absolutely.
By
So-
adding this to the agenda, because I think it'd be.
It may have been
pretty
issued, but we can add it by motion when we're at the meeting if it's already
Okay.
been published.
Just
Yeah.
one clarification, do you mind? I was gonna, so to be clear, there's two separate discussions, right? The bridge and then Lake Road. I just want to make, do you
Yeah,
agree?
there's.
So that was my suggestion on the
There's two
bridge.
issues.
My suggestion on the bridge, I don't think it is there, Chris. Maybe Sergeant Meyer could be there on Wednesday, is maybe have, like we used to do as Nantucket Street, have two stop signs on each side of the bridge where we force people to stop. And then I think the speed bump issue, one of my favorite issues, there's a counselor in the 90s who was way ahead of the game on this, by the way. And I think that's Lake Road, if you guys agree. Just want to make sure we're clear.
Yeah, there are.
I heard two different things.
There are two issues, and I think that both of them are legitimate, and it's something that we can discuss at the meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agree.
Okay.
And what we'll do, the chief of police will, tomorrow we have our staff meeting, we discuss any of these referrals. So we'll make him familiar and his, Matt Meyer, who is alluded to before, our traffic officer. They can come up with some solutions so we can discuss, but also they might have some suggestions for us too based on this conversation.
Even if we put a speed hump right in the center of the bridge, something to slow them. Go ahead, Bob,
Yeah.
sorry.
And then, for the people that did come up and speak tonight, in regard to the education budget, I know I hear you loud and clear. I am totally in support of education, as probably everybody does know that. So, thank you for those comments and for your due diligence coming up and speaking about that and being proactive. I guess I'll talk a little later about, because I think it's a discussion with the charter. So before I say my 2 cents on that, but I do understand where everybody's coming from. There's pros and cons. I know that being a member of that charter commission, I was not in support of the having the flag ordinance as part of the town charter. But I'll discuss that a little later on in the meeting. Okay, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Gina, anything?
Just very briefly, number one, thank you for everybody who came out. Please pay attention to the budget and the budget deliberations and the budget talks and the presentations and the public hearings, which brings me to my question through the mayor to the town manager. On the website, I know we had a tentative budget schedule, which has, I think, subsequently been tweaked a little. Can we get that, like, front and center on the town website? Because you have to go through all the way down through the meetings and go through like day by day to see what they are. So if we can get like budget schedule, have it right on there, location, time, that would be, I think, very helpful so people can know, even though they can't speak at some of the budget deliberations, they can know when they're happening and come and observe. Please.
Yes, and just because people are now listening, I'll answer you too to say we'll put it up more prominently. And also just we can state that a week from today at a special meeting, I will present the town budget.
Perfect.
And then thereafter, the dates for your deliberations haven't been chosen by you all with leadership yet. I gave you some prospective ones. So now that we know Monday is the presentation, normally the week after, and the next week we leave open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we can meet here and we'll publish it for anybody who wants to come. I don't know if we're going to televise. I think the mayor had asked for that. I don't know if
Right, so as it changes, if
Yes.
we can just make whatever updates.
tomorrow we
and-
should have the final schedule, so when we move it up, we'll put
Perfect.
the right dates. But I just wanted people to know in response to your question, a week from tonight, I will propose the town budget. And for folks at home to understand, that will absorb the Board of Ed budget. It's one budget, the town budget. So the superintendent has submitted his to me. I will look at it. We'll incorporate it in the town budget, and then it will be given to the council for their consideration as to how they amend it or adjust it in any way. So just to be clear, that's how we did it last year. That's the procedure pursuant to the charter. But at least next Monday night, you'll know the town budget will be proposed.
Okay, and then just on that same note, if you can also put the schedule up on the Facebook page for the town manager.
We will.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Maybe even add it to ETV, kind of like a TV guide with upcoming events. Just to be clear on that, next Monday, we had hoped that the Board of Ed would also be here to present their budget in person. Unfortunately, it's spring break week for the Enfield school systems, so they are unavailable. I know the chairman has made plans with her family. So as Chris said, it will just be the town, and part of Chris's budget is presenting theirs. And I spoke with the superintendent this morning, and if the council feels we want the board to come in and make a presentation, maybe we can have them at a future meeting as a special guest. So,
and traditionally, it's been done a few different ways, but normally I presented mine, the superintendent did his to the board. We will have a public hearing at the high school. We usually do it there in the auditorium. Maybe, I don't know, the last couple of years here, but we will promote it, and then I will present mine, and then Steve, the superintendent, could be here to present in pertinent part what he'd like to share with you. I am just going to state, just to allay any suspense, the way the charter works, and a lot of people aren't familiar with it, the superintendent proposes his budget, he's done, so he sends it to me. As manager, I am to review it, and I have the authority to do with it what I will. In other words, I can't go below the MBR, which is that's the basis from last year's funding. We can't go below that, but I could go below anything above it that doesn't touch it. Now, last year I didn't do it because we were confronted with a lot of challenges and obstacles. That's the same this year, and I'm going to make the same statement to all of you here and at home. I'm not changing it up or down to placate anyone. I'm not trying to placate those who don't want their taxes to go up, and I'm not trying to say to the education people, I in every way endorse the superintendent's budget, but the way I feel is that he's the expert, he's a professional in this, so is the Board of Ed. He deals with the structure and educational issues that I have no knowledge of all year long. So for me, at the nth hour, at the last minute, to take his budget that he's worked on since he's come back and say, I'm going to slap, I don't pretend to have the knowledge to do that. So I'm going to let it worked well last year. The council will talk to the board. They'll go back and forth. And I think it came to a conclusion that was more informed. And personally, I wish that's something they had looked at in the charter, because I don't know that the manager should have that authority. I think the superintendent's budget should come in, it should be intact, and it should be submitted to the council, and then you look at both the town and the superintendent's budget. But that's just my editorializing. So, thank you.
All set, Gina? John? No. Jim? Jeff?
Regarding the Oak Road and Lake Road, Bob and Christian spoke. I also spoke to a third resident that lives on Oak Road. That's been a concern for a very long time over there. 2 significant accidents in the last 6 or 8 months. Lucky no one got killed. It's more than just a quality of life issue at this point. It's dangerous. There's kids that live in the area. And at this point, I really think it's a liability to the town. So we need to do something. We need to do something now. They want action, and I'm glad we're going to send this to the subcommittee. I'm fully in favor of speed bumps, whether temporary or permanent. But I think if you really want to deter people from speeding and stop them, they need a nice hefty ticket. Hit them in the pocketbook, hit them in the wallet, hit them where it hurts, and that will stop the speeding. If they get enough tickets, they lose their license, and they're done. They're not driving for a while. So if they want to teach a lesson, if you want people to slow down, I think that's what really needs to happen. But I do fully support reviewing the speed humps. Maybe we can experiment over there, and if it works out well, maybe we can advance them to other areas of town that there are concerns. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Councilman Hendrickson.
Just a couple things. I'm not often on the town website, but I do like the improvements. I see CFix, ClickFix is now just right on there, that you can just click it and go about your complaint or whatever you have in town, which I thought was very easy. I appreciate that being done. I usually don't make these announcements, but I did see that the hazardous waste collection is this Saturday from 8 to 1. It's a good time to get rid of your hazardous waste. And also, I am looking forward to the budget presentation through the mayor to the town manager. As far as, I'm assuming most departments are going to be asking for equipment or vehicles, whatever. Is there an equipment list, an inventory, anything that will be presented with that? Or, that's my question.
A list of?
What we already have.
In regard to vehicles?
Vehicles, years, or mileage, or whatever that.
We had done a few years back, they did they had a vehicle replacement program, which started from there, and Fleet does keep track of the vehicles, and most recently, due to other concerns in the budget, I've asked for an inventory of all the different vehicles we have that are in use, those that are pool vehicles with an eye towards efficiency, and also in the budget. You know from when I was here last time, I didn't really care for taking Crown Vics with hundreds of thousands of miles on them and having our couriers use them. They weren't really safe, and the cost of repairs was more. So that's why we went to 2 charging stations with the EV, and we have a couple, and that's worked out well. Very low, no repairs. So in this budget, we'll be looking at that too, based upon those numbers, Mr. Hendrickson, and I'll explain that in my presentation next week.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All set? Councilman Ludwig.
I'll be quick. I think through the mayor, I would love to see, again, I'm going back when I was working in the beautiful retail section when we used to do inventory overnight. I'd love to know every single piece of information, like how many weed whackers we have. I mean, so before because that's really what you should do, is to know exactly what your equipment is, how long it's lasting. I mean, are we spending too much money? I'm sorry, I'm using weed whackers as an example, but I mean, that's stuff that gets pretty expensive, and that's, I think, a piece of the expense that we've never got a full handle on. And when everyone's talking about every dollar matters, well, again, it's done in any, certainly retail organization, but most private organizations do them every single year to make sure that, again, you're not overspending on something just because you bought it last year.
We'll look, and they're very, very good in our public works, because each year when they come up to, whether it's a snow blower or any of that equipment, leaf blowers, we talk about it. They tell us how old they are, and usually they're very, very old and in bad shape. So they're frugal and they're very efficient. But we can look at that too. And remember, after I propose the budget, then when we go into the individual evenings, each director will come and do a short presentation for you about their budget, how it changed, what their priorities are, and perhaps a wish list. If there was some money that were to be freed up later, or you were to move things around, you might fund something other than what I've suggested. So we'll have that for you, and you'll be able to ask any and all questions that you like.
And for the Public Safety Committee, I'm in agreement. As you know, I was in favor of speed bumps back in the 90s. I want to say that one more time. I was way ahead of the curve, so to speak.
You were.
But
I remember.
The hump.
Suggestion as we go through. Again, I think this is a valuable policy. maybe, I know it's a couple days, but maybe at some point Sergeant Meyer can look at, in each district, so we're fair across town, to see if there's an actual, again, I can think of them right now, I could list them off, I'm gonna be fair. So each district, as we're doing a pilot program, we're developing whether this works, how much it's gonna cost. There is some risk here too. Look, I think we need to be upfront with the public, because again, one of our vehicles certainly could be, flying, going over, depending on, there's actually speed dips too. I think Windsor's way ahead of the game. You've seen some of how Windsor does it.
I have.
So it's very creative, and I think it's a good idea to start looking at certain roads and then.
I think that we've already previously at Public Safety discussed this. I think they have some intersections and dangerous places in town that we could look at. The state has also looked at some to say these are eligible for certain grants and reimbursement, so that we're cognizant, and we'll remind the chief tomorrow to have that information available for the Public Safety
And so I
Subcommittee.
remind everyone, for the public, the brown barrels now get picked up once a week. I think it's Friday. Great, as we get into spring and you're working in your yards, it's a great service. So you just put your barrel out on a Friday, and from now till November, I believe, right? It gets picked up on a Friday. Unless there's, of course, a holiday, but I'm saying generally every Friday. It's a great, in my opinion, it's one of the best services we provide. Other towns actually charge you for it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Deputy Mayor Pisner.
I just have a couple of things. First of all, I am the liaison for KITE, and Brianna Beckstead is the director, and she has been offered a position she could not refuse. So we're losing a great gal in Brianna. I wish her all the best in her new position. She's done a phenomenal job with KITE, and I have every confidence that a new person will step in, but I just wanted to give her a formal shout out. Thank you for all you've done, and best wishes for your future endeavor. Also, I have a little bit of good news for Steve. So as everyone knows, I'm a volunteer over at Mark Twain. And so one of the residents at Mark Twain presented me with a letter the other day. And her letter is about the dial-a-ride drivers and the woman who schedules. And her letter says, and she's watching, so hi, Carol. She said she was going to watch me tonight. So her letter says, I would like you to thank Patty of Dial-a-Ride at the next meeting for her and all her bus drivers. She calls Patty an angel, and her drivers are a band of angels. And she goes on to say in this letter that they go over and above. They not only give her a ride when she needs it, but they ask her how she is. How's your family, Carol? How's your brother in Arizona, Carol? Are you taking your medication, Carol? Because you haven't gone to Walgreens lately. So she says they really care. And, this is such a compliment to her staff. So I'm going to give this letter to Steve, if you can share it. And Carol did say that maybe we should have them here and give them a little presentation and an applause, but I'll leave that up to Steve and our town manager. But I am going to give you this, and I'm going to give my personal thank you. I know my mom took Dial-a-Ride for many, many years, and it was a godsend to me because my mom didn't drive and I worked, and sometimes there was a little confusion. So it's a great program that we have to offer. So it's just really nice that we have such caring individuals that are looking over our residents. So, and like Cindy, I'll be at Mount Carmel. It's a great thing. I won my granddaughter a bike last year. I'm going to hopefully win my grandson a bike this year, maybe. And to everybody who spoke, we're listening. We are listening. But watch the budget meetings. They're not easy. They're really not easy. And it's not because we're against education, but it's honestly because there's so much that has to be stretched about. So please watch the meetings. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Okay, couple of things. First, for clarification, Chris, the budget hearing, your budget presentation is next Monday, 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. Correct. And it will be televised. Yes. Okay, just so the people out there can hear it. The flag policy, I'm going to go with Councilman Crissati on this. We're both on the committee. If you've watched the meetings, there's no secret where I stand. Our buildings shouldn't be used as billboards for anybody. Speed bumps, Martin Terrace, I believe. We incorporated the first set of speed humps in a new road as a pilot program. And I agree there are two issues that we need to address here, and we will address them. And I think it's going to be the wave of the future. I like the stop signs. Unfortunately, people don't stop for them. And that's the problem, you know? And, you know, they're going to stop the first time they hit that speed hump, you know? And then the Board of Ed budget, we haven't been presented the town budget yet, so I'm going to save all my comments on that until we sit down and know exactly what we're looking at as a whole. And then a couple things, my phone, and I'm sure I'm not alone, has been ringing off the hook for the last 2 weeks, and it's gotten worse in the last couple days because of these absolutely ugly, hideous cameras that are being put up around town where Big Brother's saying, we're watching. I don't know who approved them. They were not in front of planning and zoning. They were not in front of building department. And this council never approved putting up cameras like that in the middle of a field that are so blatant obvious. I think the whole council's okay with, you know, having them in strategic areas, inconspicuous, but to stick a huge white pole up with 4 cameras staring in your face with this giant guardrail around it is not anything that I know myself and several other council members agree to. So I think we need to get answers on that. If there are any more pending to go up, they need to be halted until the council is brought up to speed on exactly what they're doing and how they got approved in those positions. And I hope I have consensus for that comment. Yeah. So we had a great lunch. Councilman Mangini joined me with Donald Abbey. He is a gentleman who is a direct descendant of Thomas Abbey, and we all know him from the monument down the street. And he's been trying for 2 years to get this monument restored, and he's offered to pay for it. But it's 2 years, and he said enough. So I invited Chris. He came. Steve was there. Cindy, John, and a few other people. And the town of Enfield is going to work with Kelly, who is the president of DAR, who has done a great job, but she is not a monument restorer. And she's done phenomenal getting to this point. But we're going to assist her. And we're not going to let Donald Abbey down. And we'll be discussing it later in the agenda because certain critical issues came up. But all in all, it was a great thing. And I think, the last one is the volunteer tax credit. I don't think anybody's mentioned it up here. And we had a resident or residents ask about it again. We'd like to know what's going on with the Commission on Aging. I know, Marie, you were out of town. So if you can make this a priority, you and Bob, at your next COA meeting, and they've asked to get it on the agenda, whether we support it or we don't, we need to put this to bed so at least the residents are informed on how to proceed. I think that's only fair for them. And that's all I have. Thank you. Town Manager's report.
Good evening, everybody, here at home and on the dais. I have, I guess, 2 or 3 issues that have been brought up, and I'll address them, not necessarily in your order. Marie, thank you for bringing that up. We receive a lot of thank you notes, particularly in the police and EMS departments that I share with council. But because a lot of them contain personal information because of accidents or other things, we can't really share that with the public. But it's true that we do have a lot of employees that go above and beyond in this town in every department. So thank you for bringing that to the public's attention. Also, Cindy had mentioned, and I'm just going to follow up on this because in speaking to Chief Fox from a couple weekends ago, I know that you said that you're going to be going to the Mount Carmel. They're going to have your spring fling. A little while back, they had the Explorers dinner there that the council spoke so highly of, and then we actually committed funds to the Explorers as to what you would learn there. But I would like to extend, on behalf of the town, our thanks to Mount Carmel, because I'm sure that event, like most all other events, they don't charge individuals to use their facility. We do it for town awards and employees. I know a lot of the high school does dinners there. Not only do they give you the facility, sometimes they supply the meals and actually cook them. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Carl Sferraz and all the members of Mount Carmel for their civic contributions to this town. Cameras. I guess it's good that we don't always record everything all the time. If you saw those cameras, you would think it's other than that. I'm glad I'm not recorded all the time because it was brought to my attention Friday, and I saw them, and I'm glad my response wasn't recorded. There's a balance in the world. There's a balance that our officers try to accommodate, and the balance is this. You've heard this evening about many intersections. We have a lot of concerns in this town about speeding, almost everywhere. We have a lot of, in the last few months, fatal accidents. I've been to 2 scenes and seen several people that didn't go home. And it's speed, and it's disregard of stop signs and stop lights. So our police department is constantly under siege, as you know. We're asking them, like tonight, put in stop signs, do calming, let's address this, do overtime, but we know we can't have all officers everywhere. So they try to do what they can. I will tell you, I have done a small, I'm not going to say investigation, but I've looked into this since Friday, and I will tell you, it was born of good intentions. Apparently, a couple years ago, was the last funding that we gave for these cameras. In our budget, my last budget, we had to take the funding out because of the dire financial straits we were in. So we didn't fund any cameras. And apparently, in the interim between when they were doing them, like they were, very discreetly into existing poles, some policies have been implemented by Eversource that don't allow us to use their poles. So when they started to do these, they did a different methodology. I agree there's a balance. We want to be able to record a fatal accident and know who was wrong. We want to be able to defend the town if there's an allegation that we were somehow at fault. But there's a balance, and this balance has gone too far. As you said, Mr. Mayor, they're in the front. They're obnoxious. There are two locations, and I am working this week to safely remove them. And we're not going to probably discuss too much more about it because under executive session, I'll give you a full report. This is considered security and safety, so I don't want to say too much, but any resident that drives by can see it, so there's nothing that we're going to hide. But those two, I will tell you, as we sit here today, I would have had them taken down over the weekend except for overtime and trying to get people to do it, and I don't want to damage the equipment. But I've talked to Chief Fox. They did it with good intentions, but it was one of those things that went a little too far. They really want to have these cameras and the ability to find out when somebody says in a fatal accident, I stopped, and this shows that they didn't, and 2 of your loved ones are gone. So it was with good intentions, but again, everything, there's a balance. So that will be taken care of. And then in regard to the Abbey Monument, I can save our remarks, but I thought that was a wonderful lunch. And I have to say, it isn't just a statue. When you listen to Mr. Abbey talk, and he talks about his father and his forebears, he's an actual descendant of an American hero. It's unique, and it's part of Enfield's history. It's more than a statue. So I think we should engage. We'll talk about it when it comes up, but I think we should do even a little more. I will just tell you this. We have a beautiful town green here. We always have, but we, with the help of this council and the previous ones, have really made it beautiful, both with the recreation behind, with all the beautiful war memorials, the new flagpoles, the attention that the veterans organizations give it. I'm going to just propose to you, and I did the other day, and there will be discussion, that statue come here. We have thousands of people now that use this green every year. And I'm going to go so bold when I left last time, the Civil War Memorial over by Lemani and Strand, when it came down, there was talk when those buildings go back up, what will we do with it? We have a very nice destination here. We could bring the Civil War, we could have the Abbott, and perhaps others. We could have a little historical place. We have different buildings on Town Green for our own tours. Those folks that have done historical tours in town, I think, would love to come. Not only would they see the statue, but they could, hear about the history of it. We could have plaques, maybe a little area in Town Hall in the front, and rotate it. So I think it's exciting, and I think it would be wonderful for our residents to share the great history of this town. I think that's it. I have something. Steve.
Just really quickly, I want to echo Deputy Mayor Pisner's sentiment in thanking our employees, Patty. And you guys have partially thanked them already when you voted unanimously for their contract, for the Teamsters contract. So they appreciate that as well. Thank you.
All set, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Questions? Anybody? None? Okay, the town attorney's report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I have a statement from the Office of the Town Attorney that I'd like to read into the record. This is regarding the Hernandez versus Board of Education and Town of Enfield case. We wish to inform you that a notice of appeal was filed last Thursday, April 3rd, with the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in New York City. Although we disagreed with the jury's verdict against the Board of Ed and the town, we accepted the jury's awarding $10 in damages to the plaintiff. However, several weeks later, we were informed that over $1 million in attorney's fees was ordered. That was on March 7th by the court to the plaintiff's lawyers. We were surprised and disappointed, to put it mildly. For trial lawyers to receive $100,000 for each dollar the jury awarded the plaintiff was, in our opinion, grossly excessive. Accordingly, Attorney Wesley Horton, an appellant law specialist, has agreed to represent the town, represent us in taking this appeal, which was initiated last Thursday. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, so along those lines, Mark, we have a potential for another lawsuit with the Board of Education. I don't want to get into the details, but if we're not party and we have no say on what they do to get them in a jam, God knows the town has their own problems. How do we separate ourselves from being responsible to pay for something that we have no bearing or control over? Because this is a perfect example of this had nothing to do with the town of Enfield, and now we're picking up $1 million+ tab if we don't win the appeal. So how do we avoid this in the future?
Well, in this case, there was the federal judge who heard the case. There was a motion made to separate the town of Enfield, actually dismiss the case against Enfield, and the federal court judge said, no, the Board of Education is actually a department of the town of Enfield. As such, the town is ultimately responsible. That was in this case. I can't speak for other cases, but that's what the judge ruled in this case. And keep in mind, in this case, our insurance carrier did not defend the town in this case. We had to bring in our own counsel. The case you're referring to, I don't know about it, and perhaps the insurance carriers would defend that case. I don't know.
Okay.
May I say this, and just because of my experience being town attorney and representing the town in various lawsuits over the decades, we're kind of joined at the hip. We're sort of twins, co-joined twins. And, you know, as such, we go together in a lot of places, and sometimes perhaps your twin will slap someone and you didn't do it, but by law, we're also responsible. It's kind of what happened here. There's sometimes statutory non-delegable duties where, just like the budget is submitted to me and we really have the decision, likewise in some of these other issues, they consider us to be the ones in charge, despite the fact that day-to-day operations, we really have little or no control over them. So,
Okay, thank you. Questions? None? Okay. Reports of special committees. Seeing none. Unfinished business. A resolution to adopt a modified schedule of motor vehicle depreciation for motor vehicle assessments. Welcome.
welcome back.
Good evening.
Just let me go ahead and read the resolution. So, the resolution to adopt a modified schedule of motor vehicle depreciation for motor vehicle assessments. Be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council hereby adopts the modified schedule of depreciation with respect to motor vehicles as set forth in Section 2 of Public Act Number 2025-2. Date prepared 3/14/2025, prepared by John A. Wilcox. Welcome.
Good evening. So this is an update to
Please
the...
identify yourselves and where you're from when they're ready.
I'm sorry.
Motion to approve?
Yep.
Second.
Okay. And welcome.
Oh.
You are, we know who you
My
are.
name is Victoria Rose, and I'm the assessor.
Welcome.
Tyler Devine, Assistant Assessor.
Welcome. So, tell us a little bit, there was some confusion, and we just want clarification
Okay.
on this particular matter. Thank you, Vicki.
Okay, so basically, this is an update to the legislation that we had come to before. And basically, the legislatures passed the local option, Public Act 25-2, for assessment years commencing on or after October 1st, 2024, and any municipality may, by vote of its legislative body, or in a municipality where the legislative body is a town meeting, by vote of its Board of Selectmen, elect to apply the following modified schedule of depreciation with respect to motor vehicles based on the motor manufacturer's suggested retail price of such motor vehicles, provided no motor vehicle shall be assessed at amount less than $500. So on the next page, on the left is the current depreciation schedule, which is 85% up to the first year, going all the way down to 15%. The modified depreciation schedule would basically increase to 90% and would go down to 20%. So it would just increase 5% for each year. So on the next page is just an example. So the column on the left is the way it was valued under the J.D. Power Clean Retail Value. And then the column in the middle is the current depreciation based on the way it is right now. And then if you approve the local option, it would move to that modified depreciation table. So there would be an increase in the assessment. Not from the left column, but from what it is right now. So on the next page is the estimated change in assessments based on the current depreciation schedule and the modified. So currently, there was a loss of $58 million to the assessment, equaling roughly $1.6 million based on the mill rate, the current mill rate. And if you elect to do the modified depreciation, there would be a loss of $22 million, and the dollar amount would be about $642,000. And we're also including an insert in the motor vehicle tax bills in July explaining just the new laws regarding the motor vehicle. And then on the next page, there was another part of that Public Act that was passed, just clarifying something that we had spoken about before regarding the veterans. So they repealed subdivision 83 of section 1281, and they substituted it with a dwelling, including a condominium, as defined in section 47-68A, and a unit in a common interest community, as defined in section 47-202, that is owned by any resident of the state who has served in the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Air Force, or Space Force of the United States, and has been determined by the United States Department of Veteran Affairs to be permanently and totally disabled based on a service-connected disability rating of 100% and occupied by such resident as the resident's primary residence, or lacking such residence, one motor vehicle owned by such resident and garaged in this state. So they basically specifically added the wording 100% and permanent and totally disabled. And on the next page is an example of what the veteran receives from the Department of Veteran Affairs. So on the first one, this would be a qualified example stating that they are service-connected disabled. Their service connection evaluation is 100%, and they are permanently and totally disabled due to their service-connected disability. On the following page is another letter that they may receive stating this person is service-connected disabled. However, he's rated at 80%, even though he is considered permanent and totally disabled. So the difference in that law is the making it, they actually have to be 100%. That's all I got.
That's all she's got. Questions? Councilman Hendrickson.
All right, so the way I'm reading it is if we approve this, we save ourselves $1 million something off of the tax, off the motor vehicle tax.
Right.
From going to the homeowners, which, or whatever, it's going to be a loss.
If the mill rate stays the same.
If the mill rate stays the same, it's over
mean,
a
there
million.
is a
It's
cap.
over $1 million.
There is a cap on motor vehicle
On
for
the mill rate.
32.46, but somehow you guys finagle something.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, with the fire district. but-
And I just had one other question on the veterans. So I'm assuming John has already figured out what the difference is between the 100%, how many veterans we have that may qualify for this? Or we
Yeah,
don't know?
so currently we have 81 that are 100% permanent in total, okay? So, and we have 24 that we had to send out letters to that no longer qualify. So they thought they were getting it, we had to send out letters, they were under 100%, we're permanent in total. And so,
That was an unfortunate misstep by the legislators that
Yeah.
put that in there.
so it's about 9.5 million in assessed value for the remaining 81 veterans.
Thank you.
So the modified schedule, is it a one-year schedule? So next year, does it default to the past schedule, meaning or is it, we have to every year? have
No,
to-
if you adopt the modified schedule, that's the way it is going forward.
Got it, okay, so we don't have to
Unless you want to change
I
it.
guess you could probably, I don't know if you can renege a local option. Or, I guess you can do
Right.
something with the local option. I don't know the procedure for that, but.
No, I was just curious if we actually had to do this. or
No,
we
once
passed
you
it.
adopt a local option,
got
it
it from
just
Bob, like that.
stays on the books or whatever.
And curious, so how much would it, just say all things being equal, how much would it reduce the mill rate of the car? Do you know that? If we just, all things being equal, we reduce it, say whatever, we lose, what is it? About 700 grand roughly, right? Is gonna be the new,
If you,
yeah?
Yeah.
yeah,
I-
like 640.
Just
I
curious.
mean, the mill rate is capped currently.
Right, but wouldn't this in theory, if all things being equal, reduce the mill rate? For the auto mill rate? If we just said we took the 700 grand, we took it off the mill rate, right?
Well, I mean, you need a budget to operate, so I
Right.
don't know.
And it's still going down from last year,
Ah,
so
okay.
it would be hard to imagine it's going to reduce the mill rate from last year when we're even going even further
Right,
down.
right,
So,
yeah, okay. Okay, no, thank you.
Okay, so the question I would say to the council is, which one are we going with? Are we going with the 85 or the 90%? Obviously, the 90% is more of a way for the town to absorb the change from the state of Connecticut. And are there any questions about that? I think she explained it pretty good, and the governor, or the state, cleared up a lot of questions that we had previously. No questions for him? Okay, so I just have one last question is, do you need us to approve Della's time card?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Last page, I just
How did it get it? Did it get on
it
all
snuck
of
in
them?
there?
to have this.
Did everybody have that?
I
did.
Oh, how did that get in there?
No, it was a joke, yes,
I know,
no.
I just said, I
No,
don't
no,
think
I'm
we're
just
no,
supposed to
those aren't
have
the ones we
this.
printed out. They must have been.
have one?
Oh,
I was hoping nobody noticed that.
But I'm very glad to see Della's time card in there, so.
But actually, we didn't print those. It was the finance director.
Oh, boy.
Right under the bus, right under the bus.
He can hear you.
No, don't penalize her. She's doing good. Let's keep us. All right, so now reading the resolution, it does not pick which one we want to go with, correct? It does.
It says modified, right here on top.
Modified schedule.
Okay, so this we can, all right, so the motion's made and seconded. And seeing, go
I mean,
ahead.
as long as this is their recommendation, I guess is my thing.
It's on us to give a recommendation.
Well, it's up to us. Do we want,
So,
let me,
so I believe on the resolution that this, well, the resolution that was on the agenda at the last meeting that was tabled, that does have the recommendation, is my recommendation that we adopt the modified schedule. So by passing the resolution, we would use the modified schedule. If you, if it fails to pass, then we would use the regular, the first depreciation schedule.
okay. All set, Gina? John?
So I just want to understand, if we leave the schedule as it is now, that's an advantage to the individual taxpayer, right? So that's their advantage because it's leaving the town with a bigger, it's leaving us with a bigger hole that we have to fill in the budget. Is that
It is an advantage to the motor vehicle
portion of the individual
portion of the
taxpayers?
grand list.
Right.
It would end up shifting some of the burden to residential
Residential.
and real property.
Got it. Yeah, I understand that. And this includes motor vehicles that are business vehicles and such?
Yes.
Right, okay. And we have to adopt this by when? Today or by the end of the time we do the budget? What's the deadline for this?
It could be adopted at any time. In order for it to be effective for this coming fiscal year, it would have to be adopted tonight so that the revised grand list can be submitted by April 15th.
Right, that's right. That was the deadline, the April 15th deadline. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, all set, John? All right, so I am in support of accepting the modified schedule because the residential homeowners in this town are taking it on the chin at every turn. And this right here is the state of Connecticut cutting taxes that have no effect on the state of Connecticut. They're cutting them here on the municipal level and forcing us to pick up the tab at the state. So, again, I'm not going to shift all the, people who just own a car, who don't own real property, to have to, or to get a break. And again, like the commercial 3 years ago and possibly next year, it shifts to the residents. I'm not doing it. So I do support leaving it with the modified schedule and moving forward that way. Anybody else? Roll call, please. Oh,
I
sorry.
agree. I was just going to say I agree 100%.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
And Counselor Mangini.
4.
10 members in favor, none against.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Tyler. You have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is new business. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor of the consent agenda? Opposed? Abstentions? You're good with it, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. And then next is, yep. Had a lot on that consent agenda. These are 3 different roofs with 6. Okay, so next is Appointments, Town Council appointed, Enfield Town Council. A vacancy exists due to the resignation of Dean Grouse, Republican. Replacement will be Jonathan Grande, Republican, until 11/18/2025.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's made and seconded, and I just want to read this into the record. Dear Sheila, please consider this letter the official notification that the Enfield Republican Town Committee has endorsed Jonathan Grande of 33 Spruceland Road, Enfield, to fill the current vacancy as a Enfield Constable member. If you have any questions, please contact me at X. So, are there any other nominations?
Move they be closed.
Motion's made and seconded to close nominations. All in favor of closing nominations? And roll call, please.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Counselor Nelson.
Jonathan Grande.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. 4. Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
Against.
Counselor Sakala.
Against.
Counselor Crisati.
Against.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
And Counselor Mangini. That's 6 in favor, 4 against.
Next, Patriot Award Committee. A vacancy exists for the member, for a member. Recommendation is Chris Moore, Republican, until 7/31/2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any other
Move they
nominations?
be closed. Second.
All in favor of closing nominations? Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
Chris Moore.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. 4. Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
And Counselor Mangini.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Thank you. And number 3, Planning and Zoning Commission. A vacancy exists for an alternate due to the resignation of Patrick Hooper, Republican. Recommendation is Rob Anderson, Republican, until 12/31/2027.
So moved. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Motion to close nominations?
Second.
Go ahead.
I have a question and a point of order. So, from what I understand, the Charter Revision Commission is not completed based on the email that we have, that we're going to receive our recommendations.
He resigned.
Okay.
He did?
Yeah. He sent an official resignation letter
When? Oh, today?
Friday.
Friday?
I believe it was received on Friday.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you. So, did we close nominations?
We did.
Okay, so roll call, please.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
Robert Anderson.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. 4. Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
No.
Counselor Sakala.
Against.
Counselor Crisati.
Against.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
And Counselor Mangini.
Against.
6 in favor, 4 against.
Welcome aboard, Rob. Next is C, resolution waiving bids for sludge disposal service at the Enfield Water Control
Director Nunes is coming up to be available
Facility.
to give a little overview and answer any questions counselors may have.
Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 8D of the Enfield Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby determine that it is against the best interest of the town to require competitive bidding for sludge disposal services at the Enfield Water Pollution Control Facility, date prepared 3/28/2025, prepared by Donald T. Nunes, Director of Public Works.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Welcome, Donald. So this is a yearly event. You can give us a little update, but I think we've all heard it before. And my question is, do we want to do this every year, or can this be like a 5-year waiver? Because they're the only game in town.
We can have Donald explore that and make a recommendation
Maybe,
as we
yeah,
move forward.
for next year. I'd just
It
rather
depends.
get
There's
this
so
done.
many different factors.
No,
that
no,
affect
right.
it.
We'll get
Yeah.
this done tonight, but for future.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing this for years, so. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Donald? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Do you have a question?
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. 4. Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is a resolution to transfer funds for custodial supplies, $100,000. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from DPW custodial maintenance salaries, $100,000, to DPW custodial maintenance, custodial supplies and materials, $100,000. Date prepared 3/28/2025, prepared by Donald T. Nunes, Director of Public Works.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Again, this is something we did last year also. You want to say anything about it?
Well, we're almost at the point, it's going to BYOTP right now, so I'm happy that if we can get this passed, we'll be able to take care of students and staff everywhere, so.
Okay, so we're out of material. Any questions for him? Go ahead, Councilman Mangini.
Thank you, Donald. The question that I have, we're taking the money from salaries to apply for the purchasing of these supplies.
Yes.
How are we going to pay salaries? Or are we not
Go ahead.
having?
Steve will answer that.
We strive to fill all our positions, but many times they're still vacant.
Okay.
So we take the proceeds from that vacancy and we apply it.
Now, is this going to have an adverse effect on the budget? Because budget is coming.
No.
No? Okay.
We'll try to look and estimate next year in the budget the appropriate amount of custodial for the year, and hopefully we won't have to come back.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Ludwig.
I think what an interesting exercise would be is actually, you mentioned it last year, the shrinkflation. Actually, how much, unfortunately, that 100 grand doesn't get us the same supply, which I think, again, just for future reference, wouldn't be a bad little item to show folks that unfortunately, it's not that we're using more material per se, it's materials getting cheaper and less volume,
expensive.
right?
Yes.
I mean, I think that's important for people to understand. And I know you mentioned it last year, but maybe I think at some point, it'd be nice to sort of document so people realize shrinkflation is real. And it does have an effect on our budget.
Yes.
Yep.
Should we reduce down to one-ply toilet paper? I had to
Save
say
money,
it.
always trying to save money.
So, Donald, I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you finding the money within your budget to fund this. Obviously, I'd rather do this, and we did it last year, than, have a spend-off in June, because there's extra money, and we've got trailer loads, because years past, that's what used to happen. So, absolutely, don't ever be afraid to come when you're in this situation. So, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. 4. Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sakala. 4. Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
And Counselor Mangini.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Okay. Okay, I just want to say Councilman Russo just got called away, so good night, Jeff. Stay safe. And then next, we have a request for transfer of auction funds for the purchase of a Department of Public Works vehicle, $65,678. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from capital non-reoccurring fund revenue, proceeds from auctions, $65,678, to capital non-reoccurring fund light medium vehicle replacement vehicles, $65,678. Date prepared 3/28/2025, prepared by Donald T. Nunes, Director of Public Works.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. So this This is exactly how the system's supposed to work. People wonder what happens with our old equipment, old cars, snow blowers. They get put on a public bid website, which I happen to be a member of. It's pretty interesting. But I'll tell you, most of the equipment that goes through there has lived 2 lives. And this worked, and now we're going to take old money and turn it into a brand-new vehicle, thanks to Donald and DPW. So thank you again, Donald. Any other question? Go ahead, Gina.
Is this time sensitive? Meaning, does this vehicle not going to be there in a couple of months or?
The 2007 has already been, we took it out of service last September, October, it was sold in November.
Yep.
So we needed to build up a little more reserve in the auction proceeds to be able to get this vehicle right now, so it is on the lot.
Right. So the one that you want to purchase.
Yep.
Right. So I think my question is this purchase time sensitive? Meaning the one you want to purchase, you don't think is going to be there in another month or two? Like we
There's
need
just
to do this
availability.
now?
We'd rather have it now, and because we have to we're not going to have a traditional pickup truck bed on it. We're going to be an aluminum flat, like a flat bed on the back of it with that dumps as well. So we have the time to outfit that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Ludwig.
Again, sorry, it was for the budget too. This is you've done this for a lot of years. I mean, it's saved a lot of taxpayer money. One of those programs, as the mayor outlined, don't be afraid to show it and let people know that, I mean, this is going on. I mean, because this is good stuff. I mean, this is where when people talk about their tax dollars and how at the municipal level, we really do worry about every dollar. I mean, this is something you should, my suggestion to you is include in your budget presentation as much as you can over the years to show people we actually have saved them money in doing some very unique things when it comes to equipment, and your department deserves all the credit for it.
Thank you.
We'll put it on our website too, Mr. Ludwig. That's a good idea now that we have, somebody who helps us with that. That would be nice. We'll take his memo and then we'll put it up so that the residents know that this is their money being used and saving us from having to budget during the regular budget season all that money for a new truck.
Well, this is money being reused. This is like that math thing. It cost us nothing to get this, which really it didn't. And I take it this is a 2025, Donald? So we're getting last year's prices. So it's a win-win. Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Nasuda?
4.
Mayor Nelson?
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner? 4. Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Sakala?
4.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Counselor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Hendrickson?
4.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
And Counselor Mangini?
4.
9 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is
Thank you, Mayor and councilors.
Thank you, Donald.
Have a nice night.
Next is a request for transfer of funds to purchase fitness equipment at the senior center, $13,500. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from Library Senior Center miscellaneous contribution donations, $13,500 to Library Senior Center other equipment, $13,500. Date prepared 3/27/2025. Prepared by Mary M. Keller, Senior Center Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. This is a donation from somebody to the senior center. I wish I could thank them, but they wish to remain anonymous. So if you're watching, thank you very much. This is our community stepping up and giving back to programs and groups that have given so much over the years. Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Nasuda?
4.
Mayor Nelson?
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner? 4. Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Sakala?
4.
Counselor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Hendrickson?
4.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
And Counselor Mangini?
4.
9 in favor, none against.
Hold on here. Okay, next is a resolution to submit letter of commitment for outdoor recreation and legacy program. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council authorizes the town manager or their designee to submit a letter certifying the secured or potential contributions to the state of Connecticut ORLP program for improvements at the annex and the playgrounds in the community. Date prepared 3/31/2025, prepared by Aaron Markovich, Economic and Community Development.
I will just state for the record, these are grant submissions that we've already approved at prior meetings, but they required a one-to-one grant, and we must include a resolution that will honor that in the future. Council already determined and stated that we would, so we'll pass the resolution, and Aaron will include it in the grant applications.
Thank you.
Second.
I so moved.
Yeah, I second. I saw Sheila looking.
Questions? Deputy Mayor Pisner.
I don't have a question. I just, again, want to compliment Aaron. I don't think we have a meeting that there's not a grant in front of us. This guy is just sniffing grants out, and it's wonderful. So please thank him again.
I will.
Well, I mean, this will supersize the pickleball court, replace the annex football field and the track, so this is a win-win at half the cost. Roll call.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sikala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
9 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is a resolution to set a public hearing for adoption of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Violation Ordinance. The town would like to give a greater level of enforcement to the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency by implementing a monetary penalty for violations. There is no budget impact. Wetlands is asking that the council approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing for all interested citizens to comment on the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency Violations Ordinance on April 22nd, 2025 at 6:45 p.m. Date prepared 3/27/2025, prepared by Stephen Hinley, Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agent, LPW.
So moved. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Now, the chairman of Wetlands had asked if we wanted her here tonight, and I said because we're only setting a public hearing, I didn't think it was necessary, but maybe after the public hearing,
And
people have their comments.
We'll post
invite her.
the changes that we're proposing tomorrow on our website, so when people come to the hearing, they've had an opportunity to review what we're asking what he's asking us to change.
Beautiful. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sikala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
And Counselor Mangini.
4.
9 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is a resolution to adopt an ordinance regarding tobacco, nicotine, and cannabis use on town property. Now therefore be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council hereby adopts the ordinance regarding tobacco, nicotine, and cannabis use on town property, a copy of which is attached hereunto. I am going to read this because the people watching should know. So, tobacco, nicotine, and cannabis use on town property intent. It is the intent of the Town Council of the Town of Enfield to regulate the location where tobacco products, nicotine products, and cannabis products are used within the town. Further, it is the intent of the Town Council of the Town of Enfield to prevent exposure of secondhand smoke and vapor of tobacco, nicotine, and cannabis products to its citizens. Smoking restricted on town property. No person shall use, carry, or smoke a lighted cigarette, cigar, cigarello, pipe, powered-on vaporizer device, electronic cannabis delivery system as defined in Connecticut General Statute 19A-342A or similar device, whether containing wholly or in part tobacco or cannabis as defined in Connecticut General Statute 21A-420, or use a cannabis-type substance, including marijuana, in any form in or upon any building, park, playground, recreation area, athletic facility, trail, or area of assembly owned, leased, or controlled by the town of Enfield. Enforcement. The members of the Enfield Police Department shall be charged with the enforcement of this article and may issue warnings and/or citations under the provision of Enfield Town ordinances. Penalty for violation per the provisions of Connecticut General Statute 7-148C 7H 16. Violations of this section shall be punishable by a fine of $50 per offense.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Councilman Santinella.
Yeah, just a question. So a powered-on vaporized device, is that
Vape
a
pen.
vape?
Yep.
Didn't we talk about not including the vapes? I thought we talked about that.
Well, I think we did. We talked about it briefly, but I thought it came up that certain vape pens actually burn tobacco. It's an electronic cigarette. That's different than a vape pen. And we didn't want the police to have to make a decision on the spot. Is this a vape pen or is this an electronic cigarette?
Okay, but we did have that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You and I had that conversation.
Yep.
Right, and I thought that we were taking this out because it was not, that's just, because we had discussed there's no odor, there's no.
On certain vape pens. Other ones there are.
Okay. All right, I just thought that that was coming out. I just think that that's difficult. So I do, so through the mayor to the town manager or human resources director, whoever. So how does this apply, just out of curiosity, to employees who smoke? Do they have to go stand on the sidewalk? Are they just not allowed to smoke? I'm just asking as a practical matter.
I know the town does have a smoking policy that all employees have to go in their vehicle and smoke. That's the only place they're allowed
They
to
can smoke in their vehicles. So that's we have a policy on that to
Correct.
deal with. Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Unless their job prohibits them from smoking marijuana, when we have a lot of safety-sensitive jobs that they can't even smoke marijuana, period.
I was really referring to cigarettes, not anything else. Thank you.
Okey-dokey.
You good?
We'll come in tomorrow, John, and the cars will all be filled with smoke. What did you do?
Okay, any other questions? Roll call.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
And Counselor Mangini.
4.
9 in favor, none against.
We are now a smoke-free facility. Okay, resolution to authorize payment of legal fees incurred by Bellsite Development LLC. Now
We're doing this one. We're doing 10 North Maple first.
Andrew.
10
Skipped
North
right
Maple's
over it.
First.
I knew that. I was checking. I was seeing if Cindy was still awake over there.
Oh, my God.
Oh, there it is. Resolution to authorize payment of legal fees to the law office of Andrew V. Urbanowitz. Now therefore be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby authorizes the payment of $2,000 to the law office of Attorney Urbanowitz, date prepared 4/3/2025, prepared by Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. This is a payment for a donation that several residents, and I don't know if they want to be disclosed or not, so I'm not going to do it at this point. Are you okay disclosing your name? No? Yes. So the Suzaks and Gretchen Pfeiffer Hall have owned a property on North Maple, and in the rear of the property, there's quite a bit of land, and we all know the Hazardville Institute has no parking, absolutely none. And they, out of the kindness of their hearts, have donated the back parcel of land to the town of Enfield to create a parking lot for the Hazardville Institute. This has been an ongoing challenge for many, many, many years, and parking was a huge issue, and this resolves it. And this is to cover the attorney's fees for the owners who are donating the land. They are giving us something free of charge. The least we could do is pay their attorney. I want to personally thank them and everybody who's involved with it, because without this generosity, the Hazardville Institute may be stalled again for another 20 years. And this is a huge step in moving it forward. So thank you very much, Gretchen, and everybody else who was involved. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry it took so long to get it to this point.
Thank you. And he also did the work, the town's work also. It wasn't just our representation.
He was the legal firm to handle both sides, turn the deed over. Any more questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Nasuda?
4.
Mayor Nelson?
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner? 4. Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Sikala?
4.
Counselor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Hendrickson?
4.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
And Counselor Mangini?
4.
9 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is a resolution to authorize payment of legal fees incurred by Bell Site Development LLC. Now therefore be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council hereby authorizes the payment of up to $4,000 for Bell Site Development LLC as a reimbursement for legal fees incurred during negotiations for the purchase and sale of 90 Alden Avenue. Date prepared 4/4/2025, prepared by the town manager's office.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Questions? So this, go ahead, Marie.
No, go ahead. You do your thing first.
So this is similar, except the town of Enfield did not follow through and purchase the land. This was the second or third time the town has approached this gentleman to buy his property. And this particular time, we went through and really got into details because we were buying it a la carte. They were building bathrooms and flooring and doing all kinds of things to this building for us. So it took a lot of work between the attorneys to get it to a point ready to sign the purchase and sale, and then the town of Enfield pulled the plug. And we're not buying it again. So this is the third time the gentleman's had to pay for staff, and expenses occurred because we made a impression that we're gonna go forward and we didn't. So for good faith, I think it's only fair that we reimburse him the legal fees for this last time. Deputy Mayor Pisner.
So I am going to disagree with our mayor. We didn't acquire anything, and I think it's the cost of doing business. So I'm not going to support paying them.
Thank you. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. I, too, am not going to support this resolution. Agreeing with our deputy mayor, the P&S, the purchase and sale, never came to fruition. So why would the town of Enfield even consider paying the legal fees? No, I'm not doing it. Thank you.
Councilman Sakala.
Can I just ask one or two questions? Sure. And this was because I was not involved in caucus because I was busy. Is this 4,000 through the mayor to the town manager? Is this 4,000 just for one specific time that we were in negotiations or talks with him, or is this sort of cumulative?
Global.
All of them.
What had occurred?
Because I know once he came to us once. We
Correct.
just point of correction. We did not go to him 3 times. He came to us once, and I think that's an important distinction. So.
And I was going to comment because I was here. I don't believe the mayor was when we negotiated with him the first time, wasn't on the council. So the first time he did come to us, and the council, they said, yes, we're interested. We did an option. He paid for his attorney's fees. We did ours. We actually voted and approved it and put the money in. I then left, and for whatever reason, council, when I first came back, we decided money was used for other things. So that wasn't his fault. We changed it at the end and decided we weren't going to go through with it. This time, when I returned, I asked council and leadership, are we still interested? Would we like to go back? And so we got the approval to go back to him. So I reached out to him. He had another deal that was pending. And he said, I don't really know if I can do that, but I'll know like in November 7th. So when it came and it didn't go through, we then had an opportunity, and we moved quickly to try to purchase it. But it was complicated in this regard. What the mayor said, we were doing it in steps, do the roof, then we pay him. It wasn't like a turnkey, so it was complicated. But yes, then because of the ARPA money having to be expended by a certain time, and we just couldn't finish the details, we pulled the plug that time.
Okay.
Well, we pulled it both times. He came to us the first time. We went back to him the second time. But both times, the town is the one who said, we're not moving forward.
Yeah, I actually thought there was a third time, honestly, even before that, when we were talking about the recreation
There may have been somewhat, but the
referendum,
actual...
I think we may have gone to him at that point in time,
Maybe.
but I do believe that he did come to us once.
So it may
Okay.
be 3.
It might have been 3. Just curious on if it was just all of the times or
Yeah.
just one.
This is just for the last one because we're the ones that canceled it.
Again, and Claire, you're correct, Gina, I said it wrong, but we entered into a agreement and we backed out.
We
again.
negotiated with him, yes.
Right,
Yep,
yes.
I agree with that.
Councilman Crisati.
Yeah. Over the past several years, we've always had a very, very good relationship with Mr. Bellick. And, due to some unforeseen circumstances, we had 2 deals go south with him. I know that building is still available.
Know what the
and I'd like
future
to keep
holds,
those
does it?
talks open.
Do we? I'd like to give credit where credit's due. When this came about, we had talked about it sort of informally because Mr. Bellick asked me out of respect because he has been very helpful and accommodating to us. I said I would come forward, and we didn't proceed at that time. But at the last leadership, it was brought up again, and both the mayor and Mr. Santinella felt that it would be important, given these circumstances, that we bring it to the full council for consideration. And you've heard the reasons why. I think it is unique. I think it's different than a lot of other properties. But I will tell you, we are still looking to consolidate during this budget different properties, to sell some. That building perhaps could have a future use, and I would just hate for it to be gone because we were short-sighted.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I am.
But I will state, he is a gracious partner. He has a great facility over there, apartments to the town that he went in, did on his own money. And when I came last time, I'm just saying, the town, we didn't assist him with anything. Tax abatements, credits, nothing. He came in and he did it when times were tough. So he has been a good partner.
Yeah. I will be in support of this.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. Just for clarity, because I'm foggy on a lot of this scenario. I know, Chris, that we go back with this project. Mayor Nelson, you were not here when we did go back. Then we lost, then we gained, and we lost. My question here is, do we have any hope in attaining that building at some point?
Well, that's up to the council. What I say is I don't think for a gymnasium or the basketball. We've looked at that, and it's a difficult thing to accomplish. However, we're looking at a lot of other properties, and leadership, and you were aware of it. There is a potential, and it's sitting right there on our campus, and it would be very, just like we did 810, we did the Express, we really control this, and it's a beautiful area. So I would imagine, he's told me he's still amenable if you at all, when we're looking at it, we're not ready, but during the budget, we might want to reach out, and I would just hate to insult him now and then go to him later with my hat in my hand saying, oh, by the way, we like the building. Because as you well know in these deals, there's all kinds of, it's $500,000. Okay, so when we go to buy it, we could not do this, and we buy it for $504,000. I don't want to play games. I want to be transparent. The man was a good partner. He invested in Thompsonville when very few other people would, with all of his own money. He's been a gentleman. Even the first time when I came back and we reneged, didn't have an attitude about it. When he came back this time with ARPA, didn't have an attitude. He is a gracious man, and he said, I understand, but I think under these circumstances, I would like to request this, and I think it's good faith on our part. It's a little unique, but we've canceled it at least twice, and the first time he didn't ask us. This time he did.
All right, and again, to your point, I'm not happy about burning bridges, obviously. As a realtor, and I think you can relate to this, you're a broker. We don't have a purchase and sale. We don't have anything. However, with a little more clarity, that there's hope that maybe we can grab that, maybe not for recreation, maybe for, I don't know, putting some town offices in there. It is a good piece of property that I believe that our town would benefit. So to not burn bridges, reluctantly, I'll
And I
support-
appreciate that, and I know we had talked about it, and I just, again, I give great respect and thanks to the leadership of Broad to the Caucasus, because the mayor felt strongly about it, and Mr. Santinella said basically just what you did, because he had foresight and said we might need that space right here. And in the equitable, I don't want to speak for John, but I thought he thought it was fair too, so we brought it back.
What I will ask through our mayor to our town manager is that this council be kept informed or be more proactive, if you will, to see if there's something that we can do with that. Not just wait until perhaps he comes forward and says, here, I got another offer for you.
Understood. We are actively looking, and in conjunction with all of the other buildings and property we have, to see if that could play a role. But it would be for office space unless you determine otherwise. I want it very clear out there. It's not for basketball. It wasn't a community center. It was to augment space where perhaps we bring people back from other buildings that we are selling.
Okay, thank you.
A town-wide consolidation would be the only way. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, and I think this is one of the few projects where I think there's 4 separate resolutions that were passed and nothing ever got done. And I technically think that there was never a rescission of those first resolutions back in the day. So I think, again, and I also think too, because we went over and saw the building again, part of that, he was willing to incorporate bathrooms, which I know is important to, and I certainly understand some other councilors' passion around that. So I agree, and you're right. His apartments over on Alden Ave have a waiting list. They're done very professionally. We didn't give them any tax breaks. So I think, I think we actually had 4 separate resolutions, almost like our own bridge to nowhere, and I hate to use it as a
both
funny
times,
pun,
times we funded it.
Right.
I mean, we were
Right.
pretty unequivocal about
Right.
the fact we were proceeding, and
No.
you're right, he never made a stink. We talked today about people threatening to sue us and violations and breach. Well, certainly there perhaps could have been a case for it there, and he was a gentleman.
Yep. Thank you.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
Against.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Cursati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
8 in favor, 1 against.
Okay. And we are moving on to items for discussion. Receipt of the Charter Revision Commission's draft report filed in the office of the town clerk on March 28th, 2025. So we all received the charter. We need to add this to the agenda. We need to discuss it. We need to set public hearings on it. And I think, Sheila, if you could just give the council their direction on what we do with this document at this point, and when we have to have a public hearing by.
I think for tonight, we're just receiving it, and then we have a record of it because it's on the agenda that we're receiving it.
Yep.
And then the council has, I believe it's off the top of my head, up to 45 days to respond to the Charter Revision Commission, and they must hold a public hearing, at least one, within that time frame, and within 15 days of the last public hearing, they have to send it back to the Charter Revision Commission, either with no recommendations or with recommendations for the Charter Revision Commission to consider.
We hold the public hearing.
The town council holds the public hearing, yes.
So right now, we're accepting this, so we will be adding it to the agenda for discussion at next meeting. So watch the meetings, read it, and come up with ideas and suggestions, and we'll go from there. Councilman Crissati.
Yep. Well, after, 3 months of working every week, we had good dialogue. We gave and, give and take, on many of the items. I Want to just commend Sheila Bailey for your guidance through this whole process, and your knowledge was greatly appreciated. So thank you very much. You're welcome.
Good job. Anybody else? Councilman Hendrickson.
I'm just going to second Councilor Crisati's motion there. I did watch all the meetings. Sheila, you were great. You definitely helped and guided them. Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't say all the meetings, because
I'll give
she
a
had the
little
nerve to go on vacation while we were there. Councilman Ludwig.
And again, I just want to also thank the folks who showed up in the audience, because I thought there was some really good debate. Mr. Young, and I apologize, Mrs. Lang, I think was her name, if I say it correctly. And I know there's a couple others, and I apologize if I don't remember the names.
Patrick Thibodeau was there.
Patrick Thibodeau and Kelly Hemler. You four were pretty much, I know you were there almost every meeting, so good for you folks. And again, that's what you're supposed to do, right? You know, and you made some good suggestions, and we still need to chat on the one you made last meeting, because I think you had some points there that we need to consider.
I think it was a great, diverse group of people, and I got a little passionate at times, but everybody more or less stayed respectful of one another, and we still may not agree on all issues, but we'll continue the fight. And anybody who is interested, we have a vacancy on the Charter Revision Committee, so please put your application in. All right, thank you. So we'll accept that, and it's for next meeting. Next is the, there's a discussion about tax assessment agreement guidelines. Windsor showed a great plan. They have a standard form. This is it. You come to our town, you want some sort of a tax abatement or tax agreement, here's our rules. You create this many jobs, you get this. It's so big, you get this, so on and so forth, but it's set. Enfield doesn't have one, never has had, as far as I know. So we would like to create one, because it's not fair on town staff when they don't have any guidelines. And, you know, our TIF district is the same way, and we need to tighten it up. And so we thought this was a great idea. I personally think because TIF and the tax assessment agreements are the same, but they shouldn't be. They should be totally different, you know, because they fit different needs. So to duplicate and have them work for the same makes no sense, because somebody should be qualified for one or the other, not both. And right now, it seems everybody's trying to take advantage of both, and that is not the intent. So I thought the starting point for this, to create the guidelines, and Aaron is 100% on board with this, is to send it to TIF, because TIF knows what their guidelines are, or doesn't, and they need to create them, but it's a good starting point. So once TIF gets a hold of what they're doing, we know where they fall short, and something like this would pick up. When TIF is done with it, then maybe we agree and send it to general governance. But we need to do something, because right now the system's not working. We have people calling in that want to take advantage of the TIF, and there's no guidelines, there's nothing. So we kind of look foolish. We have programs we don't know how to use, so let's create the way to use them and get them out there. So I guess I'm looking for consensus to turn this over to the TIF district to start. And once they create something for themselves on how to disperse funds, they work on this, and then it gets turned over to general governance.
I agree.
You guys okay with it?
You're good, right? You're on TIF. You're in.
Bob, you good with it? Yep. Okay. Mike?
I actually think we do have a rebate, or excuse me, an abatement policy. I'm almost positive we passed it. So I'm just saying.
We'll dredge.
I agree with the mayor, but I think there is something where at least they can start and look and say it's outdated.
Yeah, we'll look, because as time went on.
I've asked about it, and nobody can seem to produce it.
I'm almost positive we passed it when Brian Chadkowski was manager. Yeah. We did.
There is a definite guideline sheet with tax abatements, and it's somewhere. Because I know, I know
I
exactly.
think the mayor's
where it
right. If you go back to the TIF conversations, even though it was there, the point was never to offer both. The TIF was actually the way where we could generate private investment, and again, instead of it just going to the general fund, there was again, kind of a two hands in a pot where we help, and they get some of that investment back, and then, of course, their neighbors as well. And I agree with you, these latest discussions, it's gone completely off the rails with TIF, and I agree with the mayor on this, we need to clean it
I
up.
will just share that it's a good problem to have. Because when I was here last time for 3 years, we couldn't, if we gave space away and paid to build a building, nobody was coming. We had COVID. Now they're knocking down the doors, so it's good that we will look at it. We've gotten some good samples. We'll dredge up or look to see if we had anything previously, because we probably had some guidelines or maybe a resolution, and we'll look at that so we can refer it to TIF and then to general governance as well.
Great. Okay, thank you. And then next is the purchase of police cruisers and ambulances. The town manager, going through the budget, saw requests from the police department and had a conversation with the chief about police cruisers and ambulances. And so both Chief Riggett and Chief Fox, with the town manager, started to see what's available, because unfortunately, all towns pass their budgets, and then it's a mad dash. Let's get the cruisers. And we're still waiting on cruisers we bought last year, okay? But it's the end of the year. So the lot has leftovers sitting there right now, ready to go. Ambulances are what, 2.5 years out? There's a brand-new ambulance sitting on the lot right now that is needed by the town. It will be in our budget next month, but if we buy one next month or in the 2026 year, now we're paying increased prices. There are 5 cruisers available right now and 1 brand-new ambulance, and they're 2025, so they are leftovers, but they are brand-new vehicles. And, they're not jacking the prices because they want to blow them out. And this is huge. I'm glad that the town manager and the 2 chiefs were able to think outside of the box, as you said earlier, and come up with different ways, because again, the price of these cars, we're basically buying 4, getting 1 for free, which is huge. And the ambulance it's a pipe dream. We're still a year out waiting on one that we ordered last year. This is insane. So it's not fair to either chief, and I would like to take advantage of it, to the point that Chris went ahead and did 2 resolutions, and I would like to entertain a motion to add these to the agenda so we can move on them tonight, because 1 ambulance is left, and if it's gone, it's gone. We don't have a second chance.
Motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to add to the agenda. 1, a resolution to appropriate funds and authorize the town manager to purchase an ambulance of $350,000. We have to do 2. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor of adding this to the agenda? Opposed? It's unanimous. And next, I'll entertain a motion to add a resolution to appropriate funds and authorize the town manager to purchase 5 cruisers for $400,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Okay, both are on the agenda now. So next, we will move to 14, C1, I'll make it. What number you want to assign to it, Sheila? Because we're under items for discussion.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be, under new business, it's gonna be 13. Well, whoops, I lied.
No, new business were passed.
BL.
13L.
Okay, L, it's gonna be,
There'll be L and M.
yeah, L and M.
All right, so we're going to go backwards on the agenda?
Yeah?
Okay, so, yep, okay. I just want to do it properly, so L and M. So at this point, we'll go to L, which is a resolution to appropriate funds to authorize the town manager to purchase an ambulance of $350,000. Be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council appropriates up to $350,000 to obtain an ambulance, and that the town manager is authorized to enter into an agreement to purchase the vehicle. Date prepared, April 7th, 2025, prepared by John Wilcox, Director of Finance.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, go ahead, Councilman Sakala.
We've actually had Erin in on general government, and we've talked about her trying to find some ambulances sort of outside of the box, and she's always done a really good job about it. Is this one that she's finding, is this going to replace the one that we have on order? Are we canceling that order? Are we keeping that order? Is this just one added? And can you remind me, did we take out an ambulance out of her budget for this year? Because I don't
I know we have. I don't know if we did. I mean, the police cars, we initially, we cut them in half, and then we cut them in half, and we replaced 4. The ambulance, I'm not sure, but I know this, and I can find that out for you. But we have one on order that we ordered 18 months ago that was within that budget cycle that is slated to come in October, but we don't know. If we order through our same vendor and our people that we use, it will put the order in, and they've told us now it'll be 2028. So if we order it July, it'll be, well, almost 3 years. You know, for us, when we have an ambulance out, as you well know, of circulation, then we lose all of the ability. We have to use mutual aid, so we lose the revenues. And also, not having the ambulances changes all of our schedules and who's. So that one. On this one, and I can ask her, maybe I can't text her right now. If she's watching, maybe she'll answer. Because I asked her today when we were discussing, when did we last cut an ambulance? She said, we have cut $400,000 in the past from her budget. I don't know if we did that last year. I don't know if we put one in.
I don't remember.
think we
may
did.
have. And I know she's actually done this with, what are they called, chassis or chassis? Chassis.
Yes.
She's done this with
and we've done,
chassis and
now we
found
need
them.
new ones
But
completely, right.
I'd really like to know if we cut this out of the budget. I mean, this is what I struggle with, right? I support this. I have a hard time reconciling that we are finding money for this now, and we cut it before. And I'm going to probably make the same argument for the next. I understand the logic behind it because we're finding something at sort of a diamond in the rough, right? This is a good price. This has it now, so we don't have to deal with having a 3-year delay. I understand that. I am just having a difficult time reconciling the fact that these 2 resolutions are going to be a total of $750,000, and we couldn't a year ago or 11 months ago or 8 months ago fund $750,000 to the Board of Ed. And that's the argument I'm going to continue to go back to.
Okay.
I support public safety, so please, nobody go after me saying I don't support public safety or EMS or the cops. That's not it. I just have a hard time when we, towards the end or the middle and the end of the budget season, kind of, I think 2 meetings ago, we spent like $1.5 million in transfers. So
I can elaborate, and I do know you've always been a supporter of all the public safety. That's not the issue. It's the accounting, the fiscal, the budget process. I will tell you, the only reason this came up is because Friday, in preparing the budget for next year, the chief put in how many vehicles he wanted, which I'm putting in, and Aaron was going to put in for the ambulance. So both of these are not, I know what you're talking about from last year. That's council, those were policy decisions. These are items, if you don't do it tonight, I'm putting in the budget for next year because we have to have them. So this isn't deferred from last year. This is, the chief is asking, he's asking for 11 vehicles. So I'm trying to think out of the box to say, okay, 11. Last year, we did, I think, 10, 5, and then 5. But this is his request moving forward. So I'm not going backward. I'm not in the rearview mirror. She was going to put one in, and when she told me she wasn't, it was going to take 3 years, I said, why don't we check? Maybe some of these are available now, and we don't have to wait all that time. So they did. And that's how it happened. But I understand your point, but it's a little different. You know, my vision is if you don't do it, we need the ambulance and we need the car. So I'll put them in the regular budget. I asked John if we could. We're going to fund them. You know, we're taking it from the general fund, but our intent in talking to John was to put it into next year's budget, to put it back, Gina. So we were going to fund this in next year's budget. That's where it was supposed to be from. So whatever we take from the general fund, we have the prerogative of this amount, we'll still fund it in the budget as if we spent it there. But I just thought, as the mayor said, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, the ambulances are crazy, but police cars are Fords. The market, as you're watching with tariffs, it's kind of ironic that these Ford police cruisers are all now, right now, subject to tariffs because they're not built in the United States. So we're going to, gosh knows what they're going to cost next year if you can get them. So we just figured, hey, we call, they got leftovers. We're going to get last year's prices. We're going to save on the increase, which we figure is about 10%. And as the mayor said, that could end up being an extra police vehicle. So we were just trying to be innovative. And like I say, we're putting in the budget either way because we need them. John, and we talked about it would be possible, because that was my question, to reimburse through the budget process next year. Well, we can.
No.
That's a council if you want to do it or not.
No, we're good.
I'm good, thank you.
Are you all set, Gina?
Thank you, Gina.
So I look at it this way. We can wait 2 months and wait 3 more years and still fund the ambulance, or we can buy it tonight and have it at EMS hopefully next week. So it's next year's budget we're already starting on, like Councilman Ludwig said. These are the ways we have to think out of the box to save money. So, any other questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
9 in favor, none against.
Right. Okay, next. What's that? That was just for L, which was the cruisers.
No, yeah, L was the ambulance.
Yeah, it was the ambulance.
Now we're doing the cruisers.
Okay.
That was the ambulance.
Next is a resolution to appropriate funds and authorize the town manager to purchase 5 cruisers for $400,000. Be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council appropriates up to $400,000 to obtain 5 police cruisers, and that the town manager is authorized to enter into agreements to purchase these vehicles. Date prepared April 7th, 2025, prepared by John Wilcox, Director of Finance.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Councilman Ludwig.
Through the mayor, tell me, I'm sorry if this sounds like a dumb question, but Ford just did announce that they're doing employee pricing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it applies here, but maybe
I
it
asked
does.
too, and they said it's not for police vehicle, but we asked, Michael,
All right.
yes.
All right, I saw the announcement. I was like, well, yeah.
Hey, anything helps
Right.
nowadays. Roll call, please.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
Against.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
And Counselor Mangini.
4.
8 in favor, 1 against.
Thank you. Next is the Abbey Monument. We kind of talked about it a little briefly. Chris had discussed the possibility of moving it. I don't know if you want to get more into detail.
Yeah, I
or you
can
just
elaborate
wanna
on
add
that.
it.
And again, that was sort of an out-of-the-box kind of thought, and I'll just tell you what the thinking was. And it's up to this group, and there's countervailing opinions about it. But what we talked about this about when I came on board about 2 years ago, and it didn't go forward because at that juncture, Mr. Abbey wanted to remain anonymous, and he didn't want it public that he was going to help us. So the volunteers were working on this, and they came forward with some plans for granite. I will just state for the folks at home, the Abbey Monument itself is in good condition, but the benches around it and the foundation are not. So nothing had occurred until this meeting Friday, and while we were just discussing it, we were just thinking about areas, would we keep it there, would we move it? I just had offered that we, as I said earlier, we have a beautiful town green. Perhaps we want to make it part of something here as a destination. There were some other considerations as to why, because it has been vandalized, because there it's kind of a remote area at night. We thought here, we'd be on the town green, we have a police substation. Also, one of the big, and I'll leave it to the mayor, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but it was a concern of the benefactor to invest a significant amount of money into a property or statue on land which we don't control or own was not something he would be interested perhaps in pursuing once we brought that to his attention. So I leave it to you. You all stayed a little later with him to talk. I think he was on board about coming here. There's reasons to keep it in historical. I'll tell you, it was interesting. Peter Sorensen from the Historical Society, he must have been talking to Kelly and others about the fact we might want to move it, and he let us know that in 1915 there was a resolution when it was donated to the town to say it would never be removed from there or destroyed. And I've looked at that with the town attorney. It was actually the Board of Selectmen, and the language was it was the Ecclesiastic Society where it was, not the church. And it said that this fellow from New Jersey, no relation to the Abbey family, would donate it, and they would set up a fund with the Ecclesiastic Society to maintain and repair it in perpetuity, and that it would not be removed to another location. Well, unfortunately, unless due to damage, disrepair, and I think that's what's occurred. So I think the resolution is already voided, but as you all know, a council resolution in that regard can always be changed by a council resolution here today. And of course, you know, almost 100 years has passed and conditions change. So that's up to you. I think what we discussed with him is that we would step in as the town to help perhaps in moving it, because the cost of moving it is really the only difference in rehabilitating the foundation of the benches, whether we keep it there or here. And we'd like, really, if the council, whether or not you want to move it, if you want town involvement, we would have to go out to bid, and let's just see what exactly it would cost to do it, because they didn't get a price. And there's been different designs, but you all talked to Mr. Abbey about what he would like to see, and his sister. So if we want to accommodate it and make it a town project, which I think it's appropriate, it would be wonderful to be here, and we could really, as I said, we could make it part of a bigger theme. So that's where we are on it.
So at this point, it's just a matter of, do we add it to the agenda? And Chris needs the authorization to get town staff involved. Again, this is something that Suzak and Associates, Donna and Rich Suzak, have donated all the time for engineering and drawing all the plans for the base of the monument, wherever it goes. And I don't think the conversation tonight is about where, but Mr. Abbey made it very clear. He's discouraged that it has taken 2 years. And DAR and Kelly has done a phenomenal job getting it to where it is, but she's not a monument restoration company. And she has done great, and contractors nowadays do not return phone calls. And, you know, certain people just, they throw stupid numbers, and Mr. Abbey is aware of that, so he basically wants to get this going. Do we want the money to restore the monument or don't we? So we had the lunch, Cindy was there, and we're ready to move forward. But again, the town can't get involved unless you guys agree to allow it to happen. Now, as of right now, we're not asking for any money. We're not asking to move the statue, but we are asking for authorization for Chris to be able to get engineering and whoever to get RFPs out, because Kelly has done all the sub work for the base and stuff like that, so we can get 3 bids for the all the concrete work underneath, and then get 3 bids for the granite repairs and the benches, because I'm sure 90% of the people watching right now don't realize every one of those benches is engraved with writings and sayings and stuff on them. And it's pretty incredible. So that's what we're looking to do tonight. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you for the synopsis. And unfortunately, Kelly is away. Otherwise, she would be here. And she has done a phenomenal job working with the benefactor. My question, and I presented it at the luncheon, to what extent do we want the town involved? What role will the town play? And again, please, please, please work with Kelly and Mr. Suzak. Richard Suzak has come up with, as of Friday, a document or plans. I'm not an engineer, I don't know how to phrase it, but his work is in progress. So rather than going back and recreating, you know, the pavement, we need to work together. And, you know, Kelly has a a booklet of what she's done, and that way we can progress. And as far as moving the statue, and again, that is a conversation for another day, I'm certainly not in favor of that. But I am concerned as to where and how the town will be involved. So, Chris, if you can,
It's a great question. And
share us.
what I would respond, it's just really the template is what the mayor outlined. If we put it on the agenda, but I'll know if you have sort of a consensus to put it on the agenda with head nods, I will talk to Donald and our engineers and see, really it comes down to the cost, Cindy, and will the town have to bear any of it, or what will Mr. Abbey be willing to do? This will just give us the information to say it's doable or it's not, and then I leave it to all of you deciding where you want it in conjunction with he and his sister. You're welcome.
All we're doing, Cindy, is getting it, we're helping Kelly get prices, and she said she's at a stone wall. So we're not building anything, we're not authorizing any money, it's just to have in-house staff help her get to the next
Yeah,
step.
they've done a lot of work.
Absolutely.
They've done work, and we appreciate it. I know you have with the Daughters of the American Revolution and Kelly, and I would just say that Mr. Susek, it's wonderful that he does this. Now, all I'm going to say, I remember when I was manager last time, when we had bad snows, we thought we were in jeopardy of one of the school roofs collapsing. He came out and did a structural engineering test to let us know what we had to do for free. So I would like to thank him publicly for both of these contributions he's made to the town.
Great. Bob?
Well, I'm glad that this is moving forward. I'm glad that Mr. Abbey did come back down to town. I was in on the first 2 meetings with him coming into town, so I'm very familiar with what's going on, not to the extent of the engineering with Suzaks. Going through this document, you can see that Rogers Memorial, or Rogers Monument Company did the moving of that, and I'm just wondering if that's the same Rogers that we have here in town, if it's the same family all these years ago, almost 100 years ago. And if it is, then maybe we should be doing business with them.
We are. They are currently, they have the plans, and we're waiting on an estimate, but it's only one.
Yeah,
And,
no,
same with the concrete, we could only get one.
I get that, and I have the same document that you have. I think Mr. Santinella also has it, too. So, yeah, so I'm glad that, we're going to be moving forward. He has X amount of dollars that he wants to have this thing restored, and I think it's a great idea, and I'm not going to give my opinion yet where it should be.
Right.
But I'm just glad that it's moving forward.
All right, so we have consensus to add this to the agenda and let Chris start getting these together? Great.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Abbey. Any other business proper to come before said meeting? Seeing none. Public communications, it is before 11. Come on up, Gretchen. This is Gretchen Pfeiffer Hall, the famous woman who donated the land for the Hazardville Institute. Welcome tonight, and thank you again.
Thank you, Gretchen Pfeiffer Hall, 4 Summers Road. On behalf of 10 North Maple Street, I'm one of the members. So thank you for your kind words. Just want to say that my husband, Lloyd Hall, is also one of the members, and I'll be in big trouble if I go home and he finds out that his name wasn't mentioned. So I just want to throw that out there. And that Donna Suzak, for the last couple of years, has been working very hard as our liaison with the town to make this happen. So I appreciate all the effort that she put into this. And I also want to thank you. I've been wanting this for a long time, this smoking ordinance for town properties, because I spent one evening at one of the 4th of July concerts sitting next to somebody smoking their cigar, wouldn't put it out, and it was very unenjoyable. So I think it's a great thing. And I don't know if I should say throw in my 2 cents worth regarding.
Is your mic on, Gretchen?
Oh, sorry. I think it should stay where it is. It's been there for so long. It's across from the Old Town Hall Museum. It is in a very visible location, and it just seems like it's a good spot for it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. Anyone else? Councilman Communications? Seeing none, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.